Hello, and thanks for joining me again today for Geezers of Gear, episode number 242. Today's podcast is brought to you by Elation. Elation is pleased to offer the new Proteus Radius, a high-intensity beam FX fixture with solid-state phosphor-converted light engine for intense power at long distances. IP66 rated, the Proteus Radius delivers an ultra-narrow 0.9 degree beam that leaves a lasting impression across vast distances. Fast 360 degree movement on both axes, CMY color mixing, gobos, prisms, and frost allow designers to create an array of stunning aerial effects. Check out the Proteus Radius today at elationlighting.com. And today's podcast is also brought to you by Mainlight. Mainlight is a national dry hire rental provider specializing in supplying the latest lighting and staging equipment technology. Their extensive rental inventory includes moving lights, truss solutions, control consoles, LEDs, and an array of weather-resistant IP65 fixtures, perfect for outdoor venues. Whether for theater productions, outdoor stadium events, or TV film broadcasts, Mainlight is the partner you trust with the gear you want. Committed to quality and reliability, Mainlight also provides a robust selection of used sales options to their clients. Each item is meticulously maintained, owned by Mainlight, and comes with a 60-day depot warranty, providing you with confidence in your purchase. Strategically located across the U.S., their 4 key locations include Tri-State in Teterboro, Wilmington, Delaware, Nashville, Tennessee, and Las Vegas, Nevada. They combine the vast resources of a national company with the attentive, personalized service of a local provider. Discover how Mainlight can equip your next event by visiting mainlight.com today and get a direct quote through their comprehensive online ordering platform. Well, hello there, and thanks again for joining me today on Geezers of Gear, episode, what did I say, 242? Awesome. It is an awesome day. 242 is an awesome number. We're pretty happy about where we're at right now. So thanks for joining us. We love that you come every week and listen to our crazy ranting, or mine anyways. So today I'm recording this on the same day that I think we launched our first Riverside recording, and it went okay. It was a lot of work. Editing was very different for us. We had to change some things around. We've kind of gone back to, as you can see here in this intro, we've gone back to sort of a hybrid of our old system and the new system. I liked the intros and promos better on the old system than I did on the new system. So we're probably going to keep both and kind of straddle one leg across each. And that's the plan for today anyways. But, you know, things evolve, things change. And in other housekeeping news, there is another newsletter being created right now by the lovely Sarah, and she should have that out, I believe, by the end of this week, maybe early next week. It's a work in progress, and she's all over it. So if you know Sarah by now, you know that she likes to get stuff done. So probably by the time you're listening to this, it's already out. And one of the pieces of news, which again, a week later is probably going to be old news, but it's relatively new right now, is this Rock Nashville thing. And so very cool. You know, one of the things that's been a common theme among everyone I've spoken to is that there's still a massive need for more rehearsal space. As much as companies, you know, like Gateway, who we had on recently, and others have created rehearsal space, there's still not enough. And so what we're finding is that more companies are talking about it. I'm starting to see more and more sort of whispering going on of other opportunities out there, or other, deals that are being made or whatever. But this Rock Nashville one is big. It's, of course, Rock Lidditz, same company, same people, same mission and vision. So it's a 55-acre campus. I'm reading this from an article that was posted on PLSN. So giving credit to PLSN for this. So it's a 55-acre campus, 609,000 square feet of production company vendors, which of course includes Claire Brothers, Sound Image, and who else? I saw it somewhere in the drawings. Of course, Soundcheck, which is big news. Soundcheck is moving in. Soundcheck has been in Nashville as long as I can remember, probably as long as I've been in the U.S. anyways. I think I remember when they opened Soundcheck, actually, in Nashville. So, yeah, lots of production stuff going on in there. There are going to be 13 band and production rehearsal studios ranging from 600 square feet to 2,100 square feet. A full-size arena stadium production rehearsal facility, which is 200 feet by 125 by 95, with a rigging grid at 80 feet clear, which is going to get most shows through there. One full-size amphitheater arena-size production rehearsal facility, which is 125 by 100 feet, 75 feet high, with a rigging grid at 60 feet clear. Backline rental, 300 plus lockers, set storage, artist relation offices, community cafe and collaboration space, etc. So to find out more information about that, or to go rent 100,000 square feet from them, go to rocknashville.com. So that's a big one. I think that's going to solve a lot of problems for a lot of performers who are struggling to find rehearsal space right now for their shows. So what else? That's it for news today. I'm not going to go into any AI stuff because I'm actually going to cover some stuff with the guest today. Today's guest is one of the happiest and most colorful guys I think our industry's really ever been introduced to, and that is Steve Warren. Steve was last on the podcast back in November of 2019. I can't believe it was that long ago. He was also on a bunch of the weekly Zoom calls that we had. He was a fairly standard fixture on those Zoom calls. Steve's just, I think, one of those guys. He's everyone's favorite guy to run into at the pubs, at the trade shows, or whatever. And but anyways, to check out that episode that he was on last, that's episode number 55, which you can get at either geezesofgear.com or search for episode number 55 wherever you get your podcasts. Or you could actually just go to Google and type in Steve Warren Geezers of Gear and you'll find it. It was pre-YouTube though, so you're not going to find him on YouTube. We just started YouTube last summer of 2023, so a little bit earlier than that, a lot earlier than that. So Steve Warren was a shareholder and director of Avolites Limited until its recent sale to Robe. For over 35 years, Steve was the public face of the console and dimming manufacturer. He began his career designing electrical layouts for hospitals, police stations, and public buildings before joining AVO in 1984 and working his way up into a technical sales role. Then the opportunity came in 1991 to purchase Avolites from the original owners. Steve bought the assets of the company and became the new general manager or managing director, where he stayed until the recent sale. Steve has done a lot of other interesting things along the way, and I personally, and I'm sure you share this with me, I can't wait to hear about what he's had going on in his life and what he has in store for 2024 as well, now that that sale has completed. So please join me and welcome the amazing Steve Warren. Oh, Steven?
Marcel, good to see you. How are you doing?
We're now recording. You can still text me the picture. I want to see the picture.
I'm going to send you the picture of the big house, okay? In fact, we only wanted...
Of course, when Steve says the big house, it's very, very small. It's just bigger than the tiny, minuscule house.
the one I sent you, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, to be honest, we wanted to buy this one house and make it into something like a nice family dwelling that we could have guests over and add space for a pinball room, which is really important to me. A pinball and a table tennis room. That's what I keep telling my wife.
Yeah.
And in the end, it was legally attached to three other ruins. One was a olive press, which is quite large, so that can become a yoga studio and a community space. And then these two small ruins. And you thought, you know what? Let's start with the two small ruins because we know nothing about what we're doing, and actually learn something. So yeah,
That's
the
so
pictures I
cool.
sent you are the two small ruins that were just, and
Yeah.
they're going quite well. It's
So
really exciting.
when you say ruins, like, are they actually, a couple hundred years old, or what are
Mhm.
they?
Literally, and we don't know exactly, but the builder who was on it, who was working on it, that's exactly the figure he used. He said, look, these have been there for 200 years. They're still standing. Some
Wow.
of them are in good shape, some of them are not. The pictures are just with you this second of the larger
Yeah,
place.
I'm looking at them.
Um,
Wow, this is
yeah, so,
crazy. I wish I could share
uh,
them, but I won't.
but no, it's okay. But it's more than welcome. But basically, they're stone houses built out of something called schist, which is like slate. So it's a stone
We've
that
got houses
breaks up.
built out of shit over here too.
Shit, I know. That's what people
Yeah.
telling me. Hey, when you
My
doing the
house is a
shit
shit house,
house?
actually. I've got a house built out of shit.
Shit, tell me about it. The land of shit.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so they're literally stone cottages, been here like 200 years. One of them had sort of a roof, but it's pretty much fallen in. One of them has no roof at all, and the two larger ones have no roof at all. So literally just a pile of rock, but four
Wow.
walls and no windows, no doors, no roof. And we're going to go in, gut them, with the aid of some very good, knowledgeable local builders. And it's been really fun. I mean, when they put in that roof beam, it's huge, this massive, great piece of wood. Yeah, oh, wow, that's it. There we go. That's
I
the larger
figured out
one.
how to share a screen. I've never done this one
Oh,
before, so this is awesome.
okay. This
This
is,
is awesome.
yeah, so this is going to be home. This is in central Portugal, near the mountains. Everyone thinks you're on the coast, if by the beach, if you move to Portugal, but no, we are right between the beach and the Spanish border. So about an hour up to the mountains where it snows occasionally, and about an hour over to the beach where all the surfers are. So
That
it's a
is
good spot. A lot
so
of runaway hippies up here, Yeah, there's a few of us.
so awesome. I love that.
Hey, let me tell
That's
you,
so
Marcel, I'm very near the sales director of Function One, David Brummel. He's
Oh,
a
he's up there
neighbor.
as well.
Yeah, and do you remember Clive Stanley?
Of
Come
course.
on, you're too young. What do you mean, really?
Yeah.
Clive is 2 villages away from me. So how about
Jesus.
that? That's
So
incredible,
this
isn't
is
it? The
old
rich
retired industry people never die.
Avolite directors.
They
Exactly.
just
He
go
was my
to Portugal.
boss. He was my boss. He was the sales director of Avolites originally, and that's how I got into sales. He
I
convinced me to do it.
think I actually met him when I met you in like
All right.
1990 or something, like a long
Yes,
time
that'd
ago.
be
It
about
was a
right.
long
Yes, that would be
you wouldn't
right.
remember meeting me because I was a young punk at the time, but
Oh no, I'm sure we hung out, maybe because that was the LDIs. I mean, they kept moving around back then, didn't they? They were always
they
in a
did,
different
yeah.
city. It was a great way to see America and learn America because
Yeah.
I've got family in Florida, as you know, and love
Yeah.
Florida. What a great place to be.
I
But it was
I
really
think I
good to
actually
see all
liked it
these
better.
different cities.
I liked it
Yes,
better.
yeah, it was
Yeah, I get
great.
bored of going to Vegas every year. I know Vegas is the greatest place for trade shows, and
Yeah, it's
the thing
fun.
is, like, unlike you who has fun anywhere you go, I think a lot of people, they're married, they have kids, and they like to get away to Vegas for a few days and have a party, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really sort of let your hair down time. For
yes.
me, just to go and do business, Vegas is the hardest place to do it in a
Yes.
sense.
What, that
So
nobody turns up on the Sunday because they're all burned from Saturday night. Yes. So,
yeah,
so you
yeah,
lose 30% of the trade show anyway. Yeah,
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 yeah.
so it's a lot to pack into 2 days, isn't it? That's what I
It
find.
sure is. And
You know.
but unlike you, I actually have really slowed down a lot, and so when I go to LDI in Vegas, I'll be at the bar with the usual crowd, and I'll be like, "Hey guys, I'll be right back. I just got to go to the bathroom." Boom, I'm up to bed.
Boom.
It's freaking 11:45 or something. I'm in bed sleeping by midnight.
I
So
don't know. I think listeners, I think he's saying this for his loyal listeners. So I'm not so sure. I'm looking into his eyes right now. We'll see. Okay.
No, it's funny because
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
started to strategically place my hotel or hotel room based on the ability to sneak out of, dangerous situations.
I only
So,
recently heard that that was called an Irish goodbye.
oh, is it?
Yeah, I thought that was quite sweet. An Irish goodbye is when you don't say to anything to anyone, you just disappear.
Ah,
And of
I've always
course,
just called it a Houdini. I just call it a
that
Houdini.
worked. Well, my
Yeah,
partner's Colombian, my wife is Colombian, I'm half Jamaican. We could take an hour to leave anywhere. We have the opposite of the Irish goodbye. We just say
that's
goodbye to
awesome.
everyone like 5 times.
That's
So it's really
awesome.
hard to go. And we went to a crazy rave. But I mean, you talk about still, staying up late. I'm like, well, it's not far from the truth because I went to a free party here in Portugal. And I think I haven't been to a free party since Stonehenge back in
What
1804.
what
I've
is a
been,
free party?
a free party is terrible. A free party has two quite large stages, but nobody's in charge. No security, no dog, no. They have a license, which was amazing. They have a piece of
It's-
land. Nobody pays, which means that the toilets are dreadful. There's packs
yeah.
of dogs wandering around, dogs inside a festival, man. It was
Oh my
like some
God.
scene from Mad Max. I'm like, are we sure we want to stay here, baby? And she's
Yeah.
like, there's music going, we're staying. So, and
Wow.
believe it or not, we slept in the car. Thank God I used to have a really small car, but now I'm in an Audi Q5, and we just put the seats
Ah,
back and pretended we were in first class. But
that's
about four
awesome.
in the morning, went to sleep in the car.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, it's still staying up too late. But it was
Yeah.
great. It was a nice thing to take part in. And the next day we went to a really nice, much more family, had some kids there now, and some friends were playing in the band. And that was much more akin to what's going on up here. There's a lot of community events where the band, a couple of friends will do DJing.
Ah,
And quite often you're raising money for the school or the hippie school or for somebody's workshop that burned down or some crazy shit.
so cool.
And it's really nice to take part in those things, because quite often, I'm looking to get some lights up here. I'm really
Yeah.
keen to do that and just let people borrow them for the events. And I'm hoping to train up some of the kids and hopefully they'll get into our industry. That's the sort of long-term background agenda.
So you're like a
So
Portuguese gypsy hippie sort of now.
Gypsy would be sort of. And we've got a few other production people in the area. And I think what happens is other production people and from some sizable German festivals, from a big circus group that plays some notable venues in London. Um, and as I say, the Function One sales director, he's here as well.
That's
And they're
awesome.
hooking me up. But another guy, anyway, different music people. Um,
So
but it's a lot of people out here, and it's great because it's a mix of country living, quieter living, really sort of wholesome. But every so often, every couple of weekends, we have a big party and everyone gets together and you hang out with people, like-minded people. And that's really, to me, that's perfect.
so what's the nearest city, nearest airport?
It's okay. The nearest city is called Coimbra, which is the third largest city in Portugal.
Yeah.
Coimbra, and basically it's halfway between Lisbon and Porto. Everybody knows Lisbon, everybody knows Porto,
Right.
and those two are on the coast. And so literally we're halfway down the country and halfway between the sea and the Spanish border. So
Okay.
it's almost like dropping a dot in the middle of the
It's
country.
like Orlando in Florida.
Right. Yeah,
Same
long,
thing.
that's right. Long and
Yeah.
rectangular. That's right.
Yeah.
It's
Long and rectangular, and Orlando's right in the center.
right in the middle, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, it's a nice place. Why Portugal? It's interesting. It's had a really well-running. I'm not particularly political, but I read somewhere that it's the only place in Europe that has a really well-running socialist government. So the taxes are a little bit high for the people that are working, but I'm working a lot less now, so that didn't really affect me. I love a little bit of the crypto space, and there is no tax on any crypto sales. Not that I've sold, but hey, maybe we do one day if it doesn't all turn to shit. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
But as I say, a lot of friends were talking about it, and it had a they're very welcoming in Europe because so many Portuguese are living outside of Portugal. They're
Yeah.
very keen to attract people there. So there's very little tax on your savings or pension when that kicks in. But mainly, we just had a few really good friends who had moved, and we said, "Hey, let's go have a look." I tell you what's really good. It's in Europe. It's part of
Yeah.
Europe. You can get a European passport after 5 years. I'm really pissed about Brexit. I could
No
not
shit.
be more angry about Brexit because I do feel European. We're UK,
Yeah.
but we're Europeans for God's sake.
Yeah.
So there are quite a few people who've said, you know what, screw this, I'm going to go live in Europe. And I'm going to,
Yeah.
then in 5 years, I'll have a European passport. I am actually European. So that was part of it. Um, and to say, just a sort of very open attitude. When you go to the beach, there's free parking, there's recycling, there's everywhere in my town, there's free parking. It's not just about the parking, it's more that the government is really sort of looks out for the people. There are lots of
Yeah.
picnic spots, and they're really well kept, and there's pizza ovens outside and seating for people to use. And you're like, wow, they seem very focused on keeping the people of the country happy. And I
And
think, it
crime
was great.
crime is reasonable. It's relatively low.
It's apparent, well, they claim it's the third safest place in the world. Now, I
Oh
struggle with
wow.
that because, what, more than Singapore, like there's Singapore in that group and there's Japan in that group. But they have
Dubai.
incredibly low, yeah, Dubai, exactly. They have incredibly low crime rate. And in fact, the friends that I stay with, again, involved in the production industry, a video guy who hooked me up with the place, I came to visit him, he never locks his doors. And sometimes I look after his off grid house. And
Yeah.
I swear, Marcel, we walk out the house and I think, you know what? I'm still just going to put all the computers underneath the sofa, because it freaks me out that I'm walking out of a house with all my technology and there's no locks on the door.
That
I
is
swear to God, there's
crazy.
no locks on the door. Now, he's not in a city, he's in a little village, he's in a little valley. You walk down to his house, cross the river, go up to his house, but there's not like six houses around. And people know that he's a foreigner living there. So if I was a criminal, I'd think, hey, I'm going to go rob the foreigners. They're the ones with
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
Um, and they just don't worry about it. Other people tell me they don't bother lock their cars. So I still lock my car. I was brought up, I've been spending a lot of time in the city, so I'm not
Yeah.
quite converted
Well,
yet, but it's
I
super
I
safe.
have a beautiful house in a mountain town in Canada that's much more what would you call it?
Sort of
Just
a kin, or
newer. It's a
right?
newer area. It's not
Okay,
like Portugal, you know what I mean? But small town. And when we first built the house there in 2005, I guess, a lot of my friends left their doors unlocked. I left my door unlocked most days, like almost
okay,
always, and had no alarm. Nobody had alarms. And my buddy had a beautiful BMW in the driveway, and he left the keys in it all the time too. He never took the keys out of his car. It's changed,
yeah, okay,
in whatever, almost 20 years, it's changed a
right,
lot. And so there
right,
are, there's burglaries and
yeah,
break-ins, and there's still no, violent crime
yeah,
to
yeah,
speak of, but it's just unfortunate that, with population movement and different things
yes,
that happen,
yeah,
different cultures that blend together, sooner or later you're going to end up with someone who goes, I want what he's
that,
got
yeah,
over there. I
yeah,
want his
yeah,
stuff,
yeah, yeah. It's
So
it's really strange, and I wonder if it's because it was under a fascist dictator till 1975, which is quite recent, and so
yeah,
they've been very controlled in the past, super secure. Crime just didn't happen,
yeah,
And I wonder, I really have a feeling that that very strict upbringing, if you like, for a country, has left
yeah,
this hallmark of there is just so little violent crime, and certainly none out where we are. It just
yeah,
doesn't happen, and everyone knows each other, and
yeah.
yeah, uh,
Sometimes that's just culture, like I
yeah,
know I grew up where you didn't steal someone else's bicycle.
yeah,
You didn't go to school and start fights
yeah.
unless you were some kind of a really bad person or a thug or something.
Exactly,
But yeah, I
exactly.
mean, it was just a whole different sort of mindset. Like, whereas now it's all obviously very different today
Yeah, the
than it
news is
was
shocking,
when
isn't it?
we were
And
kids.
so there are a lot of families moving here, and I think for the same reason is they all mention the same thing: the kids can walk around, they don't have to worry about it, they whatever. Yeah, it's funny. I think the older you get as well. I grew up in
Yeah,
Jamaica, as you know, and I'm used to having burglar bars on the house. And my wife, when we go back to Colombia, obviously it's in a gated compound, just like you would in Rio or Sao Paulo.
yeah,
Um, and it's sort of weird. You're like, oh yeah, this is how we used to live, when you just become used to the fact that you've been in Europe, which is a much safer place, and now
Yeah.
you're in probably the safest place within Europe, maybe outside of Switzerland or somewhere,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a nice feeling, and
I don't know.
it's nice to be
I just
chilled.
learned a Swiss thing recently. I'll try and keep it short. My son's in racing, and so we had a sponsor reach out to us who wanted to get heavily involved in his career to the tune of, more than €1 million, more than €2 million. And so we took it pretty seriously. I got my lawyer involved. We really reviewed documents, and everything was totally legit until I flew over to Italy to meet these guys from Switzerland. I met one of them, and there was crypto involved. And when we started digging into it, I realized where the scam was. It was exactly where the only place it could have been was where it was. And so basically, there was going to be a funky little exchange of money where they could steal it from me. And
Oh, wow.
and so what I learned was, because I had to dig heavily into how crypto worked and stuff, because I didn't know. And so one of my friends is an expert and a very tech technology guy,
Sort of
basically, and
savvy guy, right?
he really knew how things happened in crypto. And he said, as long as you don't do this, you're okay. And I said, well, that's exactly what they're asking me to do. And he says, run away, go, and
Wow.
plus the
Oh,
platform that they're asking you to be on is, definitely problematic. So he explained to me that there are only a couple places in the world that do not recognize financial crimes as crime. And Switzerland and Dubai, I think, were the two.
really? Wow.
And so that's why so many of these scams are based out of Switzerland
Okay.
or Dubai.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, cryptocurrency. If
Something
you
to
get ripped
know.
off, it's your fault.
Well,
Shame
this
on
is the
you. You shouldn't
thing.
have been
That's
doing that.
right. Well, there's nobody to protect you. Everyone talks about self-custody and how great it is. Scares the hell out of me because I'm just not that
Yeah,
organized. But I don't know. Just,
yeah,
but I suppose I like the idea of a bit more autonomy. And I think maybe
yeah,
that's also with sort of being here, we're quite an autonomous community,
yeah,
sorting out our own stuff. And I think, yeah, that sort of falls in line. But it wasn't the main, let's say it wasn't the main reason. It was mainly that where in Europe can I find a good sandy beach, a hot summer, a long spring and a long autumn? The winter is super teeny tiny short, and you still have the seasons,
yeah.
but who needs a long winter? That grey drizzle in the UK, that I suppose I think
Oh,
it just broke
yeah.
me in the end. And it's
UK
not as
is
far as,
brutal.
yeah,
UK
Jamaica would
is
be lovely,
brutal.
but it's a long way away. Here I can fly back in like an hour and a half, and it costs
Yeah.
nothing. Yeah,
Well,
it's
and
really
Jamaica's the opposite end of the spectrum. It's worse than
it's
Florida where
they
I live.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh yes, oh
it's the
yes.
opposite end. It's the
You don't,
summers are
yeah,
just unbearable,
brutal,
and
yeah. And you
yeah,
don't walk in the street, you don't walk in the street. You do look over your
right.
shoulder a bit, and so I think, yeah, it's different. So I would
Yeah.
recommend anybody who wants to come here and stop by. There, we accept a lot of guests. We were just saying today, wow, we've had so many guests, and we're not even living here the full time yet. We're just building the
Yeah.
house. A friend just dropped in,
Wait,
as I was telling you this afternoon, and he's a DOP. He was DOP on some big films as well, some of the Marvel movies and so on. Yeah, he's living down south, but he's looking to buy some land up in central Portugal where it's a little bit
very
less
cool.
dry. And yeah, so
See,
just nice to hook up with another production guy in the local
yeah.
area.
See,
Yeah.
you don't need to speak Portuguese to be there.
No, poor. I speak a little bit of Spanish. I speak a little bit more Spanish than I used to. I say my wife's Colombian, and I'm desperate to have longer conversations with our mom and dad because they're so much fun.
Yeah.
They're trying to learn English. I'm on day 192 of Duolingo. I'm doing my best, and I'm slowly
Uh,
getting somewhere. And the
good.
language is very similar. They don't like to be spoken to in Spanish because they're not Spanish, but the Portuguese, the same with the Brazilians. The Brazilians and Portuguese understand Spanish, but very often the Spanish will not understand Portuguese. So Portuguese is a little bit like Spanish plus.
Yeah.
It's got Spanish plus some extra sounds. So if you speak in Spanish and speak slowly, they'll understand. And because the two languages are similar, I'm starting to pick up a few phrases and start. But my wife is going really fast, and so I'm picking up stuff from her. We do intend to, because if I want to go for a passport, then I do need to have basic Portuguese. So I
Yeah.
know that within 5 years, I need to have some basic. But what you find is all of the really old people, the abuelas, the grandmothers, the grandfathers, you'd have to speak in Portuguese or Spanish. But of
Wow.
course, anyone under 40, they'll speak a bit of English, and anyone under 30, they're speaking English. All the
Yeah, but
kids speak
it's like
English.
Italy, when you get outside of the cities, I would guess, and
Yeah.
you get into the smaller towns and stuff, there's people who've never spoken a word of English. They don't
Yes.
know
Yeah.
any English.
That's
Like
right.
when I used to have to go to Castel Gofredo all the time
Ah,
for
yes.
Comar,
Yes. Yeah.
you didn't speak a lot lot of English there. They just,
Yeah. I can
you
imagine.
know, and
Yeah.
even sometimes in the big cities, do you speak English? A little. A
Yeah.
little means
Yeah.
forget it.
Yeah,
Forget it. Bring out a
just to say good
translator.
morning. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Bon
yeah,
dia, bon dia, obrigado.
yeah. Buongiorno.
Uh, so yeah, without my wife, it would be a lot more
Yeah,
tricky. It would be a lot trickier. But of course, she's got Spanish
yeah,
as a first language, and they understand her really well. So between the
yeah.
two of us, we sort of manage. Yeah, it's cool.
Well, as a side note, so I think I've told you before, but my girlfriend's like you. She's British, mixed race, kind of part Jamaican mixed in there somewhere. Her family came from Jamaica, many of them.
Cool.
She's got Colombian and Chinese and all kinds of stuff in her upbringing or in her
In her
blood
line,
line, I guess.
right?
But her son is married to a Peruvian who has a language school. So she teaches uh, Americans, Brits, etc., Spanish, but she teaches them properly, and she also teaches Latin people English. So I mean, if you ever want a connection to that, because she's quite good
Yes.
at
Okay. Okay.
like you can learn Spanish from someone close to you who teaches you, but a teacher does it differently.
A teacher does
So
it differently, and it makes you concentrate. That's right. And I think,
yeah,
okay, that'd be a good hookup.
if you ever
Right. I'll
want
have to
if you
come
ever
back
want the
to you on that.
hookup, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all on Zoom and stuff. So, and she's
Right.
lovely.
Okay.
She's
Yeah,
a
Zoom
really nice young lady.
conversations would be super helpful because that's it. You can learn a lot on
Yeah.
Duolingo, but you're sort of scared to speak. So the speaking comes last, I would say. But it's been
Yeah.
interesting. I
Yeah.
have to say, I'm enjoying it more than I thought. I've tried a little bit in the past to learn another language and really, really struggled. It doesn't come naturally. But
Yeah.
having stuck with Duolingo for so long and then speaking to her parents and spending a couple of months in Colombia recently, and I'll probably carry on doing that for a month a year or 2 months a year. I think, you know what, I'm going to crack it. I'm going to get there. You'll
Good for
never
you.
get super fluent, whatever. But, at least I feel I'm getting somewhere now. There's a point where you almost want to give up, because you think,
Yeah.
oh man, this is too
Well,
much like hard work.
I don't know if you know, Steve, but I'm trilingual. So I speak Canadian, American, and now British as well.
And
So
British as well.
I know
British
all three of them.
English.
Yeah, I know
Okay.
all three of them. They are very different, believe it or
There's a
not.
lot of differences.
There's a lot of every once in a while my girlfriend throws a word at me and I go, "What the hell are you
What is
talking about?"
that?
And she says, "It's a word. I'm telling you, it's a word."
It's a real word.
And of course her phone connects to a British dictionary and she goes, "See?" And I go, "But
Ah.
it's not in my Google. My Google says there's nothing." So yeah, it's funny. It's
Yeah,
quite
it's a small
funny.
world and it's getting smaller. It's good. And I think, but I'm glad that the languages are being saved. I mean, we're very lucky we all speak English, aren't we? How lucky are we? I mean, listen to all of your listeners, but your American listeners, aren't we lucky that we were born in a country that we just speak English as a first language and we have a really good command of it? I think about that so often.
Yeah.
And out of every respect, it's great to learn other languages, but more and more, I notice the young people in the company when they travel. Like if I went to Japan 35 years ago or whatever, oh
Yeah.
man, you're struggling, and
Yeah.
and it's difficult, and the places you just wouldn't manage. And
Yeah.
now they just walk up to people and speak in English and expect them to reply, which is a bit sad
Yeah.
because hey, it is their country. Come on, it's
But
but
ours is such a
we're
global
blessed.
industry.
We're really blessed. Yeah, you know.
Ours is
Mm,
such a global industry. It really and like I mean, if I had a little sound company or lighting company in the middle of China or the Philippines or
yeah,
Romania or wherever, right? I would probably want to be able to conduct business with people,
yes, yeah,
commerce.
yeah,
And English is obviously the widest language. Like I think for some of us, we like to think it's the only language, but I don't. I've
yeah,
always
yeah.
grown up in Canada around French-speaking people, and now in
Right.
South
Yes.
Florida around Spanish-speaking
Yeah.
people, and so I think it's great that the world has finally sort of accepted that, hey, if we want to kind of do business with everyone, probably this is the thread that kind of
Yeah.
goes between us all a little bit.
Yeah. That's
And
right.
but like you, I hope that all the old languages don't go away either.
Don't go away,
So
exactly. And so good, whatever. I've become quite a supporter of that. I would say, I think, okay, Steve, stick with it. It deserves it. Otherwise they will disappear.
yeah,
So yeah, it's cool.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. So,
Yeah.
we kind of just dove in and started chatting here, but I mentioned in our intro, for those who are listening to this who maybe just landed on the planet Earth and have no idea who this crazy man is that I'm talking to right now. So, of course, this is Steve Warren. Steve
Well,
is
thank you.
best known as the guy who worked for, managed, owned Avolites for a long, long time. Um, probably the most prominent trade show goer
Yeah,
of
I do
anyone
love a
I know.
trade. I do love a trade show.
Probably one of the wildest
Yeah.
men I've ever known. Again, being a relatively naive Canadian, moving to the United States and then starting to go to these big trade shows. And I remember the very first time I saw you show up at a party or something dressed as a woman. And I was like, who the hell is this man? Oh, that's just Steve.
Well, I do like to cause some trouble. It's great when you go to a fronted house like that. I tell you. I mean, sometimes on the main stage, I can get really like, oh my God, everyone's being so serious. On the
Yeah,
smaller stages, no problem. But I think, you know what? They still need a little bit of shaking up. That's why we're in this business.
it's
Uh,
hilarious. It's hilarious.
I have
But
to
no,
tell
I
you,
mean,
I have to share with you, Marcel, that whole sort of dressing up thing came about in such a weird way. We used to host the parties, those Avolife parties. We had some great parties back in the day, and
yeah, I've
at
been to
one
a few of
point
them.
I thought I'd start theming them, and so we had different themes, and we'd wear costumes again just to add a bit of sort of frivolity to it. And then one year, I don't know what possessed me, but our strap line was always from rock to opera. And I
Yeah.
thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to turn up dressed as Mozart for the opera part. I'm going to have all of the cuffs, all the frilly cuffs. I rented a whole suit and I mean, really look the part, the boots, everything. And I thought, then when it comes to midnight, I'm going to change into a Madonna outfit and really
Oh my God.
fucking blow everyone's mind.
You could have been Mick
And
Jagger or something
oh
too.
no,
Like
what the
that would
hell?
have made the same point.
No,
you
not
know.
quite. Oh, I think I just wanted to wear the gold breasts. Those pointy gold
Oh my
breasts. They're
God.
still somewhere in the back of the cupboard.
That's
But
hilarious.
I tell you, Marcel, the face of my distributors in Japan and my distributors in
Oh
Korea
my
and the
God.
Philippines was just priceless in life.
They
And I
don't
think I
get it,
just
I'm pretty
love doing
sure.
that. Oh no, man. Oh, the Japanese, they expect it. After a few parties, they were like, wow, what's coming next?
Yeah,
It's,
yeah,
because it's stuff that they wouldn't do. And I
yeah.
think the corporatization of our industry, it's been okay, it's a mixed bag, really, isn't it? People bitch and moan, especially people of my age, bitch and moan. And I've heard more of it this week and more of it today, where people bitch and moan about the corporatization of our industry. But the industry has grown much, much larger than any of us would have ever expected. It employs thousands, a
Lots.
magnitude of people more
Yeah,
than we ever expected. So it's a great career choice. It's a big industry. It's something that your parents are not going to tell you off for going into that industry when you're a kid.
yeah.
People are much safer. They don't fall out of trusses. I used to remember when people used to fall out of trusses regularly. I didn't even want to get. I told riggers, I don't want to know your wife or kids because you guys are too dangerous. So
Yeah.
all of that stuff is good. But what's not so good is when people just take it a little bit too seriously because we're not saving lives. We're doing a great light show. We're going to entertain people. We're going to help them have a great weekend. So put your goddamn feet back on the floor. Stop
Yeah.
being a prima donna. We're all going to make it work and we're going to pull off a show. And it's not heart surgery, it's lighting, and it's great, and we love it. And so for me, if I
Yeah.
go to Glastonbury and after midnight I decide, you know what, I'm going to put on my girlfriend's shorts and a pair of fishnets and I'm going to make some people laugh, then that's what I'm going to do. You can't say
Oh
they're
my
going to
God,
banking or
Steve.
something. That's what they should do. But
That's
anyway, but that's
hilarious.
after midnight. Anything can happen after midnight. I'm
Yeah.
anything for a
Yeah.
laugh. I think that's anything to raise a smile is one of my watchwords. I really like to see people
Yeah.
smile. But
So
as you say,
I
the Avolites thing has been, like, so just to say, so Marcel, you said, the place for Avolites to buy. I did do a lot with Avolites. I was the one who said, hey, we should buy this, when the corporation that owned it back in 91 decided that they weren't interested anymore. Um, all of that is true, but I'm so aware that I'm a small part in a very large cog when I look
oh,
at the
come
designers, the
on.
software people. It's just I'm the one that people meet, I suppose,
Yeah.
and I really like introducing people to Avolites, and that's why this summer we'll be at like 7 or 8 festivals, maybe 10, and we will meet loads of new young technicians who will be super happy to meet someone from the company and have a personal invite, and I'll hook them up with technicians inside the company
Yeah.
and get them going, and get them
Yeah,
to have the confidence in themselves.
but I don't know if the festival is an excuse for pitching Avolites or if pitching Avolites is an excuse to go to a festival.
It's a beautiful
Yeah.
synergetic relationship.
Yeah. I know you love a
Yeah,
good music
yeah.
festival.
I do love
Yeah.
Rome. I spend a lot of time there, and
It
and
surprises
great
me
because
you
it
didn't move
reminds
to
us
the
why we do.
Netherlands,
Yes, there's some
because
big ones
like
there, aren't they?
someone told me last year, what do you think the number is of festivals in the Netherlands? I think there's what, like 15 million people there or something, 17 million
Yeah, it's
people.
not big, is it? It's a really
Yeah.
small country.
How many festivals do you think they
God,
have
that's a
annually?
hard one because I think UK used to have like 600, and I'd put it at probably 700 now. So, and
1,400 festivals in
no,
the
no.
Netherlands.
For a
1,400
country
festivals
which is
annually.
a fifth of the size of the UK,
Is that
a fifth,
insane?
20% of the UK, that is insane.
It's insane. Like,
How many do they go to each?
and that was from someone who knew, it wasn't
Wow.
from some schmuck. It was
Wow.
from someone who
Yeah.
knew. I was
With
like, you've
passion.
got to be kidding. And part of
That's
that is
incredible.
because, again, small country, they don't get a lot of tours that go through there. So a lot of the music that they consume comes by way of festivals. And some of
Festival.
those
Yeah.
festivals are tiny. But,
Yes. Yeah.
in total,
They're still a festival.
1,400 festivals.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
wild.
And it's great. And I think the festival thing, I mean, you and I have seen that grow as a niche, in the same way the table dancing bars grew as a niche, popped out of nowhere and suddenly became a big part of our industry. I remember when there were like festivals you could count on one hand almost in the
Yeah.
UK. And then they just started springing up. And now I see festivals. Yesterday I was hearing that we're involved. We've got like 8 consoles at a nerds festival, and I mean that in the most polite way.
A
Like,
what festival?
I
Nunts
want to
Festival?
say no. He said, Steve, I'm a bit of a nerd, and I love this
Oh, a
festival. You'll
nerd
love it because you've
festival.
got so
Oh.
many consoles. It's a science festival called EMF.
Oh.
And yeah, like electromotive force, but it's for something electro field, something because it's in a field, and they have science talks all day, and they have music at night, and you think. And it says it's
What
just
the
full of
heck?
people like me, computer geeks, computer geeks and nerds,
What
and we
the
just love
heck?
it. And it's the
That is
sort of thing my
nuts.
son would go to. He's into VR. He's into creating virtual worlds. He's got degrees in it. University at the highest. Postgraduate. But that's the sort of thing he would go to: comedians and science talks, and
That's
doesn't really care about the
crazy.
music too much. But there's a festival for them. There's food festivals, there's everything. Whether it's cars, motorbikes, whatever you like, there's a festival for it. And I think that's great because it gets so many people out to start, people who wouldn't normally ever think of going to a festival.
Right.
They
Yeah.
now have a reason to go, and it gives us something to like.
We were
Do
just
you
starting
think
to
we
have fun, Steve.
were we censored by somebody? I mean, the internet, I've checked it. It's on Airbnb, high-speed internet. It's always good.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know. Something
you know
happened.
what? We used to ship the consoles with a note inside saying, "Never let something technical know that you really, really need it." It's like now, I really, really need the internet. It's like, oh, I think I'll just disappear for a while. You're like, what? And being back on, or moving to mainland Europe, especially down here in the south, where it's sort of quite old-fashioned, because I'm speaking to the builder, and he says that, and he's chatting away about the schedule, and he sort of says, well, and we're talking about August, and he went, well, on holiday, and he looks at me like I'm crazy. Like,
Yeah.
well, don't you know that? Don't you know that we're all on holiday in the whole of August? And you're like, oh, I didn't know that was still a thing.
Yeah.
But that's cool. It's great.
wild,
they spend
isn't
time
it?
with their families. They go back home for lunch every day, and they have lunch with their families and come back to work. You're like, the whole town shuts down. My local town shuts down at lunchtime. You can't, everything
Yeah.
is closed.
You know,
Well, okay.
I was a part of the U.S. company that bought Comar, and I remember the first year that we were going through this. So we closed on the deal like in spring or something, right? And you get to summer, and we decided we're not going to close in August. You know, we're going to continue building and shipping product, and it became quite apparent that the entire country said no. You're not going to
Yeah,
do this
yeah,
because
yeah.
you couldn't get components, you couldn't get
Right.
anything picked up, you couldn't
Yep.
get like you just couldn't do
Yeah,
anything.
no.
And
Yeah, you can
so
build them. Get sit on your warehouse floor. Yeah, you know.
yeah, well, if you don't run out of components or food
Yeah,
or anything
yeah,
else, you know, it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I mean, because they don't function that way. So
yeah, yeah. It's
we did it once, tried it once, it didn't go very well, and that was that. You know,
well,
we said, okay,
well.
I guess we follow the
Sometimes you got to
trend.
go with the flow. Yeah, that's right.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, man.
So, going back to Avo, so you know, you obviously had a very long and successful run with Avo, and recently you had the opportunity, along with the rest of the ownership group, to make a deal with a much larger company. And in having spoken with you in the past, I know that, uh, you know, I think it became important in our industry, and this is a pattern and a trend, by the way. It's got nothing to do with Avo. To succeed in this industry, you have to be well funded right now. You know, whether you're a rental company or you're a manufacturer, you have to be rather well funded because the costs of everything and just the size, the scope and
Yeah,
scale of
the
everything has
scale.
just gotten
Yeah,
that much bigger, right?
yeah, that's right.
And so I think for Avo, you know, when and correct me, you know, anytime you want on this, but I always saw Avo like it reminded me of when I was at Martin and high end became so dominant. And, you know, we didn't have the ideas, product, or resources to compete head to head with them necessarily. We tried like hell. And, you know, we gained a lot of fans and friends in the industry because of how hard we worked and tried and finally got ourselves in a position to compete head to head with them. But I kind of see like Ava was so dominant for so many years, and then when
Yes.
these
Yeah.
digital consoles, you know, got bigger and more expensive and more elaborate and everything else, um, you know, I think you needed a larger manufacturer to partner with to
Yes. No.
to
I couldn't agree with you more. And, it's been on my agenda for, or, sort of something I wanted to achieve and think, right, how
yeah,
do we take this to the next step? Because it was quite a cottage industry, and certainly in the beginning. And as you say, we were all, totally dominant, 80% of the market, all of the
yeah,
big shows, and a similar position to the German company now. And and then, if you like, as you say, we took our eye off the ball on the larger stuff and really focused on a lot of smaller, high volume stuff, which was very successful, brought a lot of people into the industry. But it's really important to have those headline shows,
yeah,
and other companies shown that. And so it's great to be back in the ring, even though
yeah,
you're the newcomer and like, all right, let's see how these guys do.
yeah,
We've got some really interesting touch points, on in the way that we work because it's sort of very focused on being intuitive and creative and less about learning a programming language. And I think,
yeah,
to me, I think there's still a great scope for that because, I'd like to believe, and I really do believe that a lot of creative people come into this industry. They're not code writers, not programmers, and so the more you can cater that and make it a pleasurable experience to create your vision, the more successful you'll be. But back onto the commercial line, when I look at the outlay, for to get the Diamond 9 running, and even more so with this D7, the Diamond 7 console that we've just shown at LDI in Frankfurt,
yeah,
the advanced orders are huge, and they're huge with Robe. They would have been very large anyway, but with the power of Robe behind us and their sales force and their awareness, it's absolutely taken our breath away. The hundreds
yeah,
of orders before even the production models been produced. But of course, that needs a big check to buy those components, and that you have to place the orders for the components like months ahead, so far in
yeah,
advance, and you have to have that production line funded in advance. And as
Yeah.
you say, it's just not able to run. It was great being a small ship, agile ship on a turbulent, in a turbulent
Yeah.
ocean. But for many years, I've thought, right, we did a great job. We've had really good time doing it. A lot of things we're really proud of. But we need we need a partner. We need the right partner. And we'd always been really close with Robe. As you know, they use our consoles for their trade shows, and we
Yeah.
get a lot of feedback from them. And to me, something that's also interesting is them buying artistic license. I don't know how well your listeners know artistic license, but they're all using artistic license product in a sense. Because artistic license, Wayne, who I've known since he came out of university in, when he graduated in 1985 or something, he was the one who invented ArtNet that
Yeah.
everyone has used. And
Hmm.
that's become, and he now has, is it the talkback protocol? He's developing ArtNet over network as well, So he's really sort of stretching. He's going to come up with other fundamental changes that are really cool. He's so
Yeah.
clever. And if you like, he focuses on the networking part of it. We focus on what we're doing in the consoles and control and making it fast and furious. And we can talk about how I see the industry moving in terms of fixtures and so on.
Yeah.
Um, and we've got LSC in the group now who bring a lot of sort of technology in terms of dimming, but more importantly, in terms of mains distribution. Because as the rigs get into hundreds and thousands even of fixtures,
Yeah.
mains distribution is another whole ball game, And so I feel between us, with the power Robe has with all the fixtures at different levels, us with the consoles, the mains distribution products from LSC and artistic license, it's like a really powerful, shoulder to shoulder group. And
Right.
so I keep telling people, I feel really strongly about this, that this is chapter 3. We had the original founders, chapter 1, back in the day when it all started in like 78. And they did some amazing things. And then as they sort of started to slow down, if you like, or lose focus on where it needed to be, we were there. We took it over. We took it over as a group of owners, and we kept, managed that for 32 years, built up the distribution network. And this chapter 3 is it's blowing my mind because it's got the Diamond 9, which is doing great, and people are starting to see why it's an interesting platform to work with and a pleasurable platform to use. The D7, the Type T3, again, we completely got the forecasting wrong. We saw so many of those.
Yeah.
And so we've got a whole new product range, new management in place, a new parent, new manufacturing, might behind us, new buying power for components. There are just so many things that have changed for the good and I'm really glad to be part of it. I don't want to be standing in anyone's way. I don't want to be the old guy who slows it up in any way. But I'm totally there to keep meeting people at whatever events and bring them into the company.
It's interesting because you say a lot of we stuff, and I think I, like a lot of people, was under the assumption that you were basically out now, retired, and had left, and then you just recently told me, no, I still work there, and very much a part of it, and I know, your heart and pride and, many years of your life were invested in that company, blood, sweat, and tears, literally, right?
Yeah.
And so it must really be a proud moment for you, like, watching it become,
sort of blossom, I would say.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
and as you say, on the retirement thing, I'm just going to throw in there because occasionally people come up to you and say, "Hey, Steve, what's it like in retirement? How's retirement?" F off. I've never worked so hard. I've got 4 buildings to build, and I'm still picking up the phone for Avolites.
Yeah.
And it's great. I've got a great team there, so it is totally not all about me. It is totally about hooking people I meet up with the right people in Avolites, and that's great because the people are there. But just glad to be part of it, doing my 1 day a week thing, Yeah.
Is your role basically brand ambassador?
Yes, I think it's hard to know. We've had business development, brand ambassador gets put in there. I'll tell you, at the end, I just took everything off and just had director. And now I'm thinking, actually, I don't think I'll go with the job title. I just sign off as Steve Warren at Avolites. Because I worry. I think quite often I see, I've seen marketing people come and go. I've seen business development managers come and go. I've seen brand ambassadors come and go.
Yeah,
It's
right.
almost like it's
Right.
not a real job. The managing director, that's a real job. Sales director, real job. Finance
Yeah,
director, real job.
I see
You're
what
like,
you're
well, I
saying.
can't
That's
go into
funny.
those jobs anymore, so I'll just be me.
The titleless
Yeah,
man.
a titleless man, that's the way forward. And as I
Yeah.
say, a day a week, but people say, so what? You only pick up the phone on Fridays? Is that what you're saying? You're like, no, no, no. I pick up the phone to anyone. I tell anyone out there who knows me or wants to contact me, send me a message, send me a WhatsApp, send me an email. You'll get a reply always.
Yeah.
And I'll check it every day. But it sort of works out, you know. If you're not sitting in the office doing that all day, you think, okay, I'll bill one day a week, and
Yeah.
that covers it. Because I like
Yeah.
speaking to people when they pick up, when they call me, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, still
So
part of it,
let me
very
ask
much
you a couple
so.
questions.
Mhm.
So, has manufacturing moved, or is manufacturing still in the
No,
UK?
manufacturing is still in the UK, still in London. Um, and what we'll see is an incremental change. That's been a question from a lot of people saying,
Hmm.
"Oh, does everything get built in Czech Republic now?" You're like, um, A, it wouldn't be great just to change everything overnight. Robe are busy doing what they're doing, um, every, and so even if we wanted to, it wouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
So what we're looking for, you know, is initial things like Robe have a great PCB plant. They've bought their own PCB plant.
Yeah.
Well, there's no point in us getting PCBs made by any other supplier other than the parent. So, you know,
Right.
we can have really fast turnaround for prototyping stuff, which has been great. So you have an immediate benefit from that because the prototyping is much faster now
Yeah.
within the group. So the first thing is like PCBs will get produced by Robe. A next second step would be metalwork because you know metalwork facilities are huge and expensive.
Right.
So we've always had the metalwork produced outside of our physical building. And
Right.
so that would be an easy next step to say, right, okay, we'll get 100 pieces of this and 100 pieces of diamond front panel and so on. And so these steps are slowly coming in. So there will be, and I would expect there's no great, it's not how it has to be. But let's say
Yeah.
I would be surprised if in 5 years or 7 years, if most things were not being built in a central
Yeah.
factory that's capable
Makes
of building
sense.
it.
Yeah,
Makes
it makes
sense.
sense. It makes
It's
tons of
good for the
sense.
cost. It's good for reliability, and
Well, and
cost
it's
is
such an
important.
efficient
Yeah,
manufacturing
yeah,
facility. You know, it's a large, efficient
yes,
manufacturing
yeah,
facility. They do a very good job manufacturing product. And the actual construction of a product versus the sales and support and everything else, totally separate functions. And they
yes,
don't have to be in the same facility in
yes,
my
yeah.
belief anyways.
No,
So
and I think it's an absolute win to separate
yeah.
because I think that's a point. The point you've just made is something missed so often that almost I think people. I remember somebody saying, "Oh, they're talking about the American Mercedes and the American market." And they said, "Well, Americans think the Mercedes are built by like scientists in white coats, sticking each bit together."
Yeah. Yeah.
Things are not handcrafted anymore. When I started, everything was, things were
Yeah.
wired together and soldered
Yeah.
together with care and attention. Now you have SMD machines and metal folding machines. You've seen them. I mean, the Roby facility is just off the
Yeah.
scale good. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And
Yeah.
so what it is, it's about streamlining and getting things to a price point because customers don't realize, and especially I quite often look at this and you think, wow, what goes into that
Right.
manufacturing wise.
Yeah.
It's amazing that you get it for the money you do. People bitch and moan about it, but if it was built by companies like myself or Roby or Martin or Avolites, it probably
Yeah.
costs you 100,000.
Yeah. Yeah. But
It's
but having said that, the funny thing is like 25, 30 years ago when you were making, whatever consoles, QM 500s
PM
or whatever, right?
500s. Yeah, that's
Like,
right.
could you imagine 25 years from then that you'd be selling lighting consoles for 80 or $90,000?
Yes, wow, that's
Like, I
right.
mean,
That's
that just
yeah.
blows me away that the market is so
If
strong
so, that's
at
right.
that price
But
point.
But I would also refer back to I think that customers are getting great value for money. And I'm not saying that as a sales dweeb, like I've been a sales dweeb all my life.
Yeah.
Because if I look at those 28 grand consoles or 30 grand consoles back in the day, they were still expensive.
Yeah.
And somebody has shown me the devaluation of money, especially since they started printing money like no tomorrow, your government, our government.
Yeah.
And we watch our money dissolve and
Yeah.
devalue year by year. So if you look, when you see those graphs that say, if you took £30,000 back in 1980, how much is that worth today? I want
Yeah.
to say it's worth probably 150 grand, 200
Yeah.
grand,
Yeah. It's a
you know?
similar scale. Yeah, you're
So I
right.
think I think things have dropped by like a third by the fact that we used to hand build them, and now they're built, by SMD machines, robots, and then engineers put them together and test them, and another one goes out the door. So yes, it is a shock that they're, whatever the price of a Porsche or a cheap Porsche,
Yeah.
but
But I mean, the other
I think
thing,
what doesn't get
oh,
seen
go
is
on.
the software development, and it's not a super exciting subject for a lot of people, but I suppose when they get close to the company, and it'll be the same for MA, same for Camsys, same for us, is that when you look at the real cost of the console, what people don't see, because a lot of us in our industry, especially rental company owners, they're guys who used to build stuff. You build truss, build lights. We're all pretty hands-on. We're all quite sort of handy. And so we look at the cost of something and we sort of guess how much for the PCBs, how much for the processors, how much for the cables, how much to put it together. And then we still can't understand, like, wow, you guys must be making a fortune on this. You want to,
Yeah.
well, look at the $2 million software bill that has to get amortized across
Well,
those
here's the thing,
products,
Steve. It's funny because this is such a hilarious conversation because last week I had Michael Nevitt on, and Michael, of course, Flying Pig, and then the M series stuff from Martin. And then a couple weeks ago, I had Matthias on, and, so a couple of console guys, and both of them said the same thing, which is when people are thinking of the price of a console, they don't think that there's a lifetime of software upgrades included in that. And so when you start putting a price tag on those software upgrades, whereas some other industries or some other types of businesses or whatever, they'll devalue the hardware, but then charge $5,000 every time you upgrade the software, right?
Yes.
Like
well, the licensing, yeah, that's right. The monthly license fee, like for
right.
Adobe or whatever,
Yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
all that Adobe
Exactly.
suite and so on. But when you look at what you're paying over a lifetime, that's a really big number. But everyone's like, oh, yeah, it only costs me $30 a month. You're like,
well, I remember every time we used to have to upgrade AutoCAD in one of the companies I owned, and I was shocked by how much they charged to upgrade AutoCAD each time, like $10,000 or something. I forget what it was, but it was a sum of money, right? And so again, you either pay the price all in that price of the console, and then they're pricing in, 20 years or 10 years of updates, or you charge for those updates,
charged bit by bit. That's right,
which our
you can
industry
see
wouldn't
that.
love.
What is it, micro billing? I remember when that phrase came out. What a great phrase! I remember I was standing when I first heard that, and I thought that as a commercial vehicle, that's an amazing concept.
What's that mean?
It means that if you're buying like tracks on it, I think it was to do with iTunes when they first started selling single tracks on iTunes.
Yeah, for 99 cents.
Micro billing, exactly.
Right.
Because nobody minds spending 99 cents.
Yeah.
But look at all the tracks you own by 99 cents,
Yeah, wait, I've got an iPod that can hold 10,000 songs.
Yeah, that's right. But it's like,
so
like
true.
just slowly drip, drip bleeding you. So yeah, and I think
so you guys are just
console people saying that, other console people say that.
You guys are just charging $10,000 for the iPod.
Off the bat.
And then you give them free music.
Just
the music's free. Right. Yeah. 10,000 for the iPod.
Yeah.
Now,
and of course there's a fixture support. But these are, not exciting subjects, so I'll try and start over.
No, it is.
But you imagine that every day there's new fixtures coming out. And not only that, they used to come out with 30 or 50 channels. Now they're coming out with 500 channels, maybe more, maybe 2 universes of channels.
Yeah.
And somebody has to map those, figure out all of the boundaries. And we pay somebody to do that. It's a full-time job. We pay someone to do that as a service and don't charge for it. It's all going to be paid for somewhere.
You were, and, it's going to sound like I'm just pumping you up a little bit here, but you were a visionary when it came to realizing that consoles were going to control a lot more than just par cans and a few moving lights. You
Man,
know, you were very early on the whole media server thing, and
thanks.
you know, a light show being basically video nodes or pixels or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you were really early on that
We've
sort of
given a
way
lot
of
of
thinking.
attention to that, and I feel sort of quite strongly about that. Um, I have to say, overall, it's sort of a bit funny because I'd like to say, oh yeah, I saw that coming. Um, the trouble is, I saw it coming way too early.
Yeah,
I was, I
yeah,
remember
it
back in
happens.
1990,
I've done it.
exactly 1999, and I gave a talk to all my distributors and said, hey, video lights are coming, and we need to be ready. We need to be integrating control of video servers, getting used to those functionality, treating things as one homogeneous canvas, the
Yeah,
lighting rig, rather than separate fixtures like we did with Parkans back in the day, because the moving lights are really just an extension of, oh, we've got a really smart Parkan now, so we'll treat it like that. He's like, no, we need to be thinking about the whole picture. Because I thought those video lights would be there very quickly with their infinite zoom, infinite iris, super fast iris, infinite gobos. And of course, they just couldn't get the output high
yeah,
enough. And
yeah,
lights just got brighter and brighter and brighter with the existing technology, which is really like a gobo, like a thing in front of a flashlight.
yeah,
um,
yeah.
but they work really well. So I'm still convinced that the projector lights, profile lights, projection lights will go that way because the benefits are so huge. But it probably needs another breakthrough like that Texas Instrument chip that did the
Well,
DLP
yeah,
projectors. But what I
it's
would say
yeah,
is, just to carry on what you were saying, is that the wash lights became multi-celled. And so I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting the projection side to be like video. But the multi-cell fixtures, they have just grown, as everyone has seen,
what a
and
great
they're
point. Yeah,
like little video panels.
right.
And so, in the same way that we're really fixed on, we have all the features that you'd expect in a console and all the programming features, which I won't bore people with. We were super happy to come up with keyframe shapes, and we've seen that in lots of other consoles now because it's a really good way to work with really complex fixtures. But the synergy thing allows you just to dip in and out of video. I think Seth Jackson's using it soon on the Doobie Brothers thing, and
Yeah, I
what
just
I'm
saw
told
that.
is he's going to blow some people's minds on how he's using it because people, it's simple and it's a way of dipping in and getting the whole thing to look as one picture, and I think that really is important.
Is this the thing that I remember you demonstrated in, I believe it was Las Vegas, in a building that was off the strip somewhere, and you had this sort
Yes.
of secretive demo, and you had a rig set up in there where you had like old Parkans or something, and then you had strobe lights, and then you had wash lights, and then you had
Yeah, we had
video.
some, yeah, with
Like you
lasers
mixed
and
a
video.
bunch of
Yeah,
different media together,
different stuff.
basically,
Yeah, yes,
and they all operated as pixels in an image, basically.
yes, yeah,
And it
yeah.
blew my mind. I'll never forget seeing that. I was like,
Wow.
what an
Oh,
amazing way
cool.
to look at this, you know,
Oh,
because that's
cool. Thank you, man.
exactly, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, the lights
and
became an
from
extension of the screen behind them or whatever,
yes.
right? As opposed
And I
to
suppose
working against each
exactly
other.
that, exactly
Yeah.
that. And the big message for me and the worry for a lot of lighting people is that they say, "What are you trying to give away our control? You're trying to give it away to the lighting department, to the video department." I'm saying, not at all, really not at all. The video people are doing what they do, and they're doing more. More and more shows have really high level, beautiful video in it. So they're there; they're not going away. And you're doing your lighting thing. But there are times where it'd be really nice for you to be able to just synchronize. And I do mean times. I mean like individual cues within a show or one track within a show. So, for example, on a band called Left Field, which was doing arena tours here recently, there was one point where it was really fast dance music, and the video was bursting out from the middle of the screen and flashing out with these sort of like lightning points. And all I could see that all of the strobes around the edge of the lighting rig were being triggered by the points as they reached out. Now, there is
Oh,
no way
interesting.
you could ever program that. If you wanted to program that, you'd be in the studio for like 2 months.
That's amazing.
Whereas you could just say, "Hey, pick up the video when the video runs over that light, trigger that light," and boom, it's there. It was so simple. And it was just, and you didn't quite know what you were looking at. It just looked that like suddenly the video was in your face with the strobes, and it was
Yeah.
cool. And then
Yeah.
then he goes back to using normal lighting cues. It's
Yeah.
not like we're taking over your show. We're just giving you another tool, like the shape generator was another
Well,
tool.
I mean, it was when I saw that demo, and I'm not a lighting designer, board operator, programmer, nothing. I'm just a sales guy at the end of the day.
It's
I'm
like
a
just
business guy
you're
and a
myself.
sales guy. No, but the
Myself.
thing is, I don't know anything when it comes to, like, I'm not a technical guy.
Yeah, yeah,
However, I understand a lot of things because I'm very curious. But
yeah.
when I looked at this, I was like, your smart guy that was on the board gave me a little speech, and I was like, I have no idea what the hell that guy just said. Like, I had no idea. But then he said, let me show you a little demo. And he did the demo. I got it immediately, instantly. It
Oh,
just went
brilliant.
bing.
Oh,
I was like,
brilliant.
whoa,
Yeah.
the lights and everything,
Delightful.
strobes, all of this different stuff going on is just an extension of that LED screen.
Yeah,
That's all
that's
it
right.
is. It's
Yeah,
basically, it all becomes one big image,
one thing. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
sometimes
it's
that's the
one
right thing to
canvas.
do. And
Yeah,
sometimes it's great that they're both doing their own thing. So it's not
yeah,
about taking power away. It's just
yeah,
like, hey, guys, here's another cool trick you can do.
yeah. I
And
just
isn't
thought it
that a
was
nice
cool.
thing to be able to do? Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. It's
so
really
very
cool.
cool.
I'll tell you
Yeah,
what, Marcel, one of the extra side benefits, which I hadn't really thought about in the beginning, but now that we're part of the Robe group, there are a lot of people looking at us for the first time. People say, oh,
yeah,
yeah, it's no Avo, you guys, whatever, you're everywhere now, whatever. So, a lot of big front of houses with somebody else. And so there's a lot of people looking at us almost for the first time, or people haven't looked at us for a long time. And that awareness of synergy, as well as some of the other things like keyframes that we
yeah.
invented, really, are just people are really like, wow, I wasn't expecting that, and that's
Well,
really cool. So encouraging
because
people to have another look.
if you're 40 or younger, you
Yeah.
probably grew up on a Hog console
Mm-hmm.
and then transitioned into a
So,
MA
yeah,
console.
yeah,
And so you might have missed Avo altogether.
yeah, yeah.
And
That's right.
and I get that. Like, I
Yeah,
completely get that. And
absolutely. It's
so
just
the
history.
tie-in with Roby, but like me, I'm sure you would probably recognize or agree with this. It wasn't that long ago that it was really taboo and scary for a lighting manufacturer to pair up with a console company.
Yeah, interesting. Yes,
From
yeah,
a political standpoint and a commercial standpoint, like, oh, you're just going to make me buy your consoles now because
yeah,
I'm buying your
yeah.
lights. And
Yes.
I would say, for the most part, companies have behaved really well
Yeah.
in that regard.
Yeah.
Beginning with probably Martin, I think, was the first one, weren't they? With
Yes,
the
yeah,
case
keeping it quite
partnership, and
separate. That's
yeah, they
right.
kept it pretty
And even
separate. They
even
didn't.
when they took it completely under their wing, um, and of course, I mean, the salespeople, of course, are gonna. I'm not talking about Roby, but in previous, whatever relation
Yeah,
and so on, they're gonna
yeah,
try and sell their console with their lights,
yeah,
and
yeah,
of course, I get that. Something that I think, and I'm sure this will be the way forward for Roby, you will see that they're kept very separate. The brand identity, people say, is the name going to change? No, we're still
yeah.
Avolites. We're doing our thing. We've got our own staff.
Well, it's such a
When you
strong
speak to us,
brand and
that's
loved
right.
brand.
Um,
Yeah,
and when you go to the website, you don't see, they're kept as separate things. And I
yeah,
think that really is the way forward. And it was important for all of us because
yeah,
we need to keep our relationship with all the different movie light manufacturers, and they need to keep their relationship open with all of the designers, and the designers
yeah.
choose what they want to choose. And so, yeah, as you say, everyone has played really fairly, and I think I'm convinced from what I've seen, Roby are going to play most fairly of all.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, I
cool.
mean, you had High End and Flying Pig, and you had obviously, and then ETC and Flying Pig,
Mm,
and ETC's own consoles as well, and Act and Ayrton and
yeah.
MA, and
Yeah.
there's been a lot of these sort of partnerships and stuff. Campsis with
With
Chauvet now.
Shobe, yeah, that's right.
So it's almost like it's shifted from taboo to have a console and lighting manufacturer together to it's the norm now. All of the
The norm.
big
Yeah,
manufacturers
yeah, yeah,
have a
yeah.
console
A
company. It's
console.
almost
Yeah.
like you have to.
Mm.
So it's
And
an
I think
interesting thing.
it'll be interesting as it moves forward as well, I think, because one side is, as you say, keeping it playing fair and playing well, like you just said. But as fixtures get more and more complex, I think it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens because there'll be a point, I think, where we control everyone's fixtures on a level playing field. But because you're inherently tied up, and working closely with the R&D department of someone, of your parent,
Right.
and they come up with something really technologically advanced, you would expect that those consoles that are owned by the parent to have certainly a head start.
Yeah.
Not an intentional head start, because everyone gets the data and so on, but you'd know it's coming. You'd be having those conversations about, wow, where could we take this? How could we use
Yeah.
that functionality of that new fixture? So I think
That's a good
I would
point.
imagine that if we rolled the clock forward 10 years, it might be different. Like we say, well, we're
Yeah.
trying to be fair with everyone, but we just inherently can control this better than anyone else,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, it's
we're
going to be
part of that
interesting where
thing.
that goes. You're right.
Yeah,
That's such a
yeah,
great point because, well, and I don't know. Like I ask so many questions on this podcast of people who are 80,000 times smarter than I am, because I'm trying to always understand where it's going. And the older we get, it's we lose sight of that
yes,
sometimes,
I'm afraid
because
so. Yeah,
young people will tell you exactly what you need to be
yeah,
investing
yeah,
in
yeah.
on social media platforms or anything else. Like I'll always ask my son, what's popular now, and he'll tell me. And he'll be like, Dad, Facebook's for old people.
I know.
And
Yeah,
but but the thing is, I think that there's something like AI and robotics are really going to change what everything looks like in the future.
yeah.
And exactly how is that going to change? And like I'd love to hear your take on this, because I know
Wow.
you've drank the blood of weird frogs and eaten plants and stuff that aren't
Yes,
meant to be
yeah.
eaten, and you've had a
No,
lot of
it's
time to think about stuff, let's say.
I could deny everything, and when
Yeah.
it comes to the frogs, that was completely legal. I just want to make that really clear. But it's
They
true. I have
wanted to
had
be
frogs.
eaten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, apparently they stroke the frogs. This is what I'm told. They stroke the frogs. Hey, maybe it's good marketing. I'm sure there's some
Yeah.
people not stroking the frogs, but the frogs live and they secrete their poison, and then they burn it
Oh,
into your skin to make you really sick. But hey, why
I
not?
remember that. I remember
Apparently
that
makes you
story,
feel
and I
really
was
good.
like,
I know. Why do they
Steve,
even
what
do
are you
that?
doing? What the hell are you doing to
My
yourself?
wife will do anything if she believes it make me more healthy. It's supposed to
What's the
help
one
your
that Joe
neuro
Rogan always
something.
talks about? DHT or something, or
Oh, well, that's a different. Those are sort of I think DMT, probably hallucinogenic
DMT.
things.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Have you ever tried that one? Because
Uh,
that's
I
supposed to be like
I
a
think we're being recorded. I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never heard of that substance.
no, but it's almost like you have to try it at some point, because it's supposed to be this like wacky out of body experience where you come back and you remember everything that you just experienced, and you can confirm nor deny, it
Well,
doesn't matter.
well,
Uh,
if I mean, if I had a friend who had tried it, they would have told me
yeah,
that yeah, it's like a
yeah,
complete out of body, three-dimensional
yeah,
experience, being
yeah,
somewhere that has no physical form, but being able to jump
yeah.
back into the real reality and then return to that
Well, and have a very
three-dimensional
lucid
space.
memory of it and stuff too, right?
I
Like a
tell you what's
very,
really interesting, and I think America's really leading the way on this, is psychotropics with with depression.
yeah, yeah,
I have a friend through the yoga connection who is studying at a degree level the use
yeah,
of
yeah,
psilocybin with
yeah,
depression. He's a therapist, went to the same school as Prince Charles. He's a
yeah,
particularly very, very posh chap, super
yeah,
educated. And it's been so nice because he is so interested to hear about me, because I have a connection to some rock and roll people and
yeah,
the
yeah,
more dubious side of life.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
but isn't it great to hear that people getting off prescription meds for years and years and years?
And taking
It's
natural therapies
that's
now.
right, and
Yeah.
things that actually can fix you rather than just keep you subdued. And I think
It's funny
people are being
because
more open-minded, as you say,
I,
about things like DMT or
yeah,
psilocybin or any of those things. People are much
I
more
was a
open-minded. That's a good thing.
young musician,
Mm.
grew up in Western Canada. And, friends would just say, hey, you go over there to that field and you pick up cow shit until you find these particular looking
Yeah,
mushrooms. And, so of course everyone did them back then, and I did.
yeah, yeah.
And, but never since. And now I'm hearing very smart people
Yes.
extremely smart,
Yeah.
straight and narrow people.
Hmm.
Like these aren't druggies
No,
they're
that's
more like
right.
the guy in the lab coat than
Yeah.
people in like,
That's
long
right. They're
hair,
not, long, yeah,
ponytail.
that's
They're not
right. And in
hippies.
Afghan
Yeah.
coats. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's,
So, but especially microdosing, like the whole mushroom
yes. Yeah.
microdosing
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
is a big deal right now too. So,
Yeah.
um, but anyways, where I was
And
going
yeah.
with all of this was
We can
if
end down a rabbit hole.
if we go back to the console, uh,
Mhm.
you know, I'm always curious when I talk to console control companies of any kind on when do we see AI coming into consoles and
Yeah.
how do we see AI coming into consoles? Because you could do it today. And
Yes.
you could take away repetitive lines of code and all the, like you said, people didn't get into this business to be coders. They got into it
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah.
creative and they want to
Creatives.
create
Yeah.
things. And so AI can very easily today, without waiting for new technology or anything, using GPT-4 or a number of other
Yeah.
methods, you could remove all of those lines of code and have it do it
Yeah.
for you. And so that would be sort of, call it the easy step, because no designers or lighting people are going to get pissed off because console companies have made their job a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But what happens when you start getting into the stuff where you're borderline stepping beyond that
Don't,
lighting
that's
programmer
the,
or operator, and you're saying, make this desk, or create a look that looks
yeah.
like Peter Morse on Michael Jackson in 1999, or 2000 or whatever year it
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
um, using blah blah blah, and boom, all of a sudden you've got this look that looks just like that, right? uh, Things like that are doable.
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering, how does AI, in your vision, make
Impact.
its
Yeah.
way
It's,
into lighting consoles?
and I think there's a lot of what you're saying, I think, on the right track. Number one, to me, without answering the question initially, is it's such a difficult question
It
because
is.
I can say I remember, and it was a festival maybe 2 years ago, and I remember where I was standing when a really competent young programmer designer running a stage, and he'd done a beautiful job with the stage and what have you. And he said, "Oh my God, I made such an effort to get into this industry just at the time when my job's going to be replaced with AI." And it sent shivers down my back, I was like, oh shit, he's really young and he's worried about this. And I could
Yeah.
see why, because I couldn't turn around and say, that's never going to happen. You're like, oh, wow. There is
Yeah.
there is stuff about, say, for example, like club operation. Let's take it. Good
Yeah.
nightclub operation. It's great when you have a good nightclub operator, but of course, the operator of the club is very keen to spend as little money as possible. You know that, and they're looking at every overhead and every personnel they have to. So you've got a situation uh, where there are people trying to push those people out of a job. Hopefully they
That's
recognize
true.
that when they have a good operator, that brings people to their club and adds to the vibe, but they don't quite understand why. But,
Yeah.
there's still operators in those clubs. And I suppose what I worry is that you start thinking those situations where it will read different types of music and output, different scenes that I remember, as I'd say, but even on Sound to Light, I remember having a really clever operator saying, "Steve, this is what you do with the bass channel, and this is what you do with the mid range, and this is what you do with the treble." And he'd already sort of analyzed it, and he was laughing with me, but he wasn't touching the desk. We were leaning back from front of the house, having a hug at Glastonbury, and it was doing this great light show, but he wasn't
Yeah.
touching
Yeah.
it. And you're like,
Yeah.
fuck me, excuse my language,
Yeah.
but it was a moment. And as you say, AI is going to take that to the next step. Now, so that's the worrying part of it. However, I also listen to many people talk about AI and say, look, human beings have been through so many steps with industrialization. And at each step, we've been scared and worried. And at each step, it's required more people. It's created more jobs, more productivity, more wealth, better standards of living.
Yeah.
Now, yes, that's all true, but I could imagine a young person going, well, that's all right for you, old guy, but this is different to, cloth looms. This is not
Yeah.
about industrial printing presses. This is
Yeah.
about a thinking machine, a real thinking machine. So I don't be patronizing and say, oh, don't worry about it. Human race has been through that before. But I do believe in my heart, and I really do, that we just integrate new creative tools. So there's a lot of stuff. I suppose I imagine one of the things I talk about, and I've sort of imagined for a long time, is if you took a huge array of moving lines, lots and lots of moving lights like pixels. We can sort of do this now with Synergy. We can obviously run the color across it, and we put bits of video. But I would like to see those lights opening up like a rosebud petals, so they're all overlapping and they're doing like an organic movement, not straight lines opening up. So you have really complex with each 5 fixtures doing a little organic shape, but opening up the same way that a rosebud opens up in fast, stop motion photography.
Yeah.
And something like that is still a bitch to control. We can create that now. Hey, if there's anybody out there who wants to do that, we can do that with Synergy, and I'll tell you how. But it's still a beast to control. You're talking about hundreds and hundreds of fixtures by hundreds of channels. It's a mammoth task.
Yeah.
And so things like that, I think AI are going to make into a doddle. Let's say, Anne, look, I think my wife is not really loud. She's wondering why she can't get into the house.
Uh-oh.
We're
That
still
could
here,
be
and I'm
that could be problematic.
Right, I just want to come in and say hello.
Maybe let's talk to her for 30 minutes now instead of you. I'm bored of you already, Steve.
I know. I've got a bicycle in front of the plate. My mountain bike is here getting a bit of work. No, I don't want to speak to you. Where are you going? Say hello. You're the one who came back early. Hey, Marcel, it's Carolina.
Hello. How are you? Oh, she can't hear me because I'm in your ears.
Yeah. So this is the crazy Bikram yoga teacher who has got me to this crazy country, and we're going to build a studio and all sorts of yoga spaces up there.
She can't hear those, Steve, because I'm in your ears.
You are in their ears. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so she can't hear.
We might have to send you guys back to the pub or a restaurant or somewhere. Yeah, you can come and give a wave, but they won't be able to hear you because I'm on headphones. This is my DOP friend I was telling you about who's come to visit. It is video. I thought this was an audio call. So, hello, everyone out there in TV land. Shall I catch up with you guys in a bit?
It wouldn't be it wouldn't be a podcast with Steve Warren if there wasn't a party going on in the background.
See you later, guys. See you later, guys.
That's so funny.
Come back bang on time. She's Colombian. She's never on time. What the fuck?
That's funny. Yeah, we'll be done right around. Yeah.
No,
just
funny.
when you don't want her to show up on time, right? Yeah.
Oh my God, we have taken lateness to another level, but that's another story.
It's all good. Yeah, but you're working a day a week now, so it's all good.
That's right.
And I'm sure yoga teachers, as busy as she might be, the world isn't going, my yoga teacher's 5 minutes late. Maybe in Miami, but not so much in Portugal.
Maybe in Miami.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Everything is late here. And it's great because we've all, you, like us, like many people out there listening, we're not the healthiest of industries at times, yes, whatever. We used to drink too much, not crazy too much, but too much, certainly too much at times. And used to smoke, analog CNA, whatever. Yes. And it's all bad. So it's been great that many of us are looking at, hey, we want to be here for a lot longer. And example, and it's great. We see a lot of young people, also doing a lot better than we did. So the yoga is keeping me on a even keel.
I listen to so many different like longevity podcasts now and stuff. And, it's just about not trying to live to 150, but certainly trying to live healthy until whatever age that is.
Yes.
So if I'm going to die at 80, I want to be healthy all the way up to 79.85. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I want to be sick for a week and then die. That's it. I don't want to be sick for 5 years or in a
Yeah.
dementia hospital or something,
Yeah, not being able to run
So
around, not being able to, walk and
yeah,
whatever, go
go
on
to music
hikes or whatever
festivals.
you do. Exactly
Yeah.
that, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
people go, "What? You're way too old for that." You're like, I don't even think about it. I just turn off that part of my brain and I just go raving with the rest of them. And
That's
you
awesome.
know
I
what? I
love
think
that
the great
about
thing
you.
about being old is I just tell myself, hey, they probably think that, it's your festival. Like you own the place. Just walk around like you own the place. So,
Yeah.
you must be the
It's always
promoter or
worked for me.
something. It
Yeah.
does. We look like the promoter. Just,
Yeah. Yeah.
we've got
I
the
remember
wristbands. We're good.
one time in Vegas for an LDI show, Peter Morse had Reba McEntire at the arena down the street. And oh no, it was in Reno. It wasn't in Vegas. It was in Reno.
Yeah, I remember the
And
Reno.
and I was working for Martin at the time, and this is how long ago this story was. But I went, and Peter was supposed to leave passes for me and another, I don't know, one or two people or something, and something happened, as it always does, and the passes weren't there. And I said, well, let's just go walk in through the back. And they're like, what? And I said, yeah, come on, let's go. And we had our laminates from the trade show were on around our necks. And so we go to walk in the back, and the security guy goes, hey, excuse me, who are you with? And I said, Martin. And he goes, okay, come on in. So like four of us just went walking right in the back door of the venue. And it was hilarious. So it
Yeah,
was just so
sometimes it's
funny.
just the look on your face, isn't it? That's it.
Yeah,
Like I'm
act
meant to
like
be
you're
here.
supposed to be
I'm
there.
meant to
Yeah,
be here,
exactly.
and it works
Exactly.
so often, so many
Exactly.
times.
Well, now they scan you, like now you're just being tracked and scanned and stuff. So you can't
It's
get away
worrying.
with as many things.
It's a
So
little bit. That's what I was saying, because I was saying that, hey, you can imagine that in a few years' time, one of the things I stay away from is or I tell people, uh, I find myself with a lot of older people, and quite often they're saying, oh, Glastonbury, it's not like it was 20 years ago. It's not like it was 30 years ago. The industry's not like it was 20 years ago. Hey, guess what? Nothing's like it was 20 years ago.
no.
Life changes, and you got to still find the party, find the good people to hang out with, find the right places to be. There's always the good place to be. You just need to keep with it. And if you're hanging around backstage bitching that things aren't the way they were, you're probably not at the right place because nobody wants you there.
We all do it at some point of our life. We all sit around saying, geez, 20 years ago it wasn't like this, but it doesn't matter. Now it is. Guess what?
Exactly. Find the cool places, find the place to be.
But that's my view. That's my view on all this AI stuff. Steve, it has been just exactly that. Like the bus is coming, you either get on it or you get run over by it, but it's coming. You can't stop it. AI is not going to stop. You can't just, some people are saying there need to be laws and legislation around the arts, protecting the arts. And do you know Glenn from AED?
Yes, very well.
Yeah,
he stayed in my house for quite a while. I helped him find the property in the UK. We've hung out a lot.
Oh, well, it's funny. He did a podcast with me a few weeks ago, and he was in Portugal. I remember. Yeah, so he must have a place not far from you too.
Right.
But
I need to catch up with him again. I used to date one of his wife's friends. So yeah.
Oh, really?
We're close.
He's such a great guy. But we talked about AI, and he has a movie studio, a TV studio. And I said, does that make you nervous at all? And he said, not really. There's always going to be a need for studios to film in or whatever. And he said, the problem with AI in movies is, yes, AI is able to take movies all to a very high level, and everything's just going to go like this. Every movie will be like this, right? And then it's going to plateau. Everything will be the same. Everything will be an 8.5, for example. They'll all be exactly the same. There's no nuance. There's no differences between any of them. Everything's at this same level. And it was an interesting point. Like I had never looked at it like that. I think some movies are great because of their flaws. Some lighting designs are great because of their flaws or because of nuance or because of attitude from whoever's programming it or whatever. If we just wanted perfect lighting designs, you would just go out and go, I like that Roy Bennett show right there. Let's
Yeah,
just make
yeah.
everything look like
Just
that.
recreate it. Yes, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's not going to work,
yeah.
you
No.
know? So,
And I think your
so
point about, the bus is coming, you're right. And sadly, there will be some people who get run over. I don't like to say that, but I
yeah,
think you're right. They, especially the ones who sort of resist, and the ones who say, actually, no, I want to learn how these programming tools are going to help
yeah,
me because this is going to take me to another level. And I think so. It's almost like everything is true. When some people say, "Oh, it's all going to be bad," yeah, there's going to be some bad things because with every change, there's winners and losers, as you say.
yeah,
But I have no doubt that the level of creativity is going to get accelerated by
absolutely.
AI tools.
Yeah.
So um,
For me, it already
um
has. Like for me,
mm,
I've been able to become more creative. I've been able to put out more content. Been able to,
right,
like, within these few hours I have per day to get away from my
yeah,
normal job and do these other creative things.
yes,
I've managed to stuff a lot more into that because of AI and because of AI tools that are out there and available. And I love that, you know? So for me, it's been a really great relationship so far with
yeah,
AI.
yeah,
You know, like I know there's big famous podcasters out there who are concerned that there's going to be no market for content because AI will just produce content. And, you know, you could go out and say, like I said this to Glenn, you know, we could have Godfather 5 or 6 or 7 with Marlon Brando in it. You know, why
that's right.
not?
Yeah,
Right? Why not? You could
where are
have
you
new
going to go
Michael
with it?
Jackson.
Yeah,
You could have new Michael Jackson music and music videos and stuff by whoever owns Michael Jackson's you know,
yeah, image, yeah,
uh
you know,
yeah.
yeah,
I
image
mean,
and yeah, the
so who
rights
knows
to.
what's going to happen? Who knows what's going to happen in the
It
future,
is.
but
I
I think it's
mean, I
exciting.
feel it's a super exciting time. Obviously, we're in a privileged position because we're of a certain age where
Yeah.
we're not having to worry about our career development in the like 10, 20, 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Um, so I can see why that young lighting designer, we're not going to see him again. He's running a stage at Glastonbury and whatever. And I can see he's doing well in his career. So I'm really pleased. But I can see why he and people like him are concerned. Um, but it's a case of, yeah, it's a case of accepting it. It's a case of using it and wanting to use it. And it's like that with so many things. I've had this with the trying to introduce lighting people to sort of video techniques. And it's not about
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach you to be a video engineer or I'm trying to replace anyone's job. I've had video people accuse me of that, which hurts. It's a
Yeah.
more a case of no, I want the lighting guy to understand what you do so that he can, encourage the more use of video within your show. It's going to grow, and there are going to be people who grow with it, and there are people who resist it, and they're going to get left by the wayside. And
Yeah.
so
Well,
I'd like to,
it's
it's
so
not just
typical
all
though.
optimism.
There's always two sides of this, you know. It's you know, it's all good. Change is good, change is bad. You know,
Yeah,
you know, I've known people on both sides of that, and I've always preferred change is good, you know, for
yeah,
myself.
yeah,
Like, change is good. You just have to find your place in that change and constantly be evolving and constantly be upskilling. And you know, and this was always, you know, because you were on a lot of our Zoom calls and stuff, it was always my messaging during the whole pandemic
that's
was, you
right.
know, it's going to be different, and just
Yeah,
position yourself well for the
to
change,
come
you
out
know,
of
because
it,
it's
come
coming.
out of it well. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so many people did, you know,
Yeah.
thank goodness. I
And that's
mean,
right.
our
A lot of
industry has
people
thrived.
reposition themselves in a lot of different ways, not just their careers, but their life,
Yeah.
whatever, whether
Yeah.
they moved, country, moved career, spent more time with family, whatever, got out relationships that didn't work. It's funny. There were a lot of silver linings in those clouds. There were certainly some
Yeah.
big clouds, and you did
Yeah.
an amazing job. You and the team there in terms of
Oh,
keeping
thanks.
people's
So did
spirits
you.
high. Yeah, well, you kept people connected. You kept them with a
Yeah.
purpose. It was great, and it was
You know
really
what? That
good.
was important because,
Good part of
again,
it.
you had people who were completely freaked out by this, and then you had some people like me that took this as an opportunity to exhale for a moment, you know,
Yeah,
and to kind of look around and go, okay, what's this world all about and stuff, and to reconnect with a lot of people. And I got to say, I thoroughly enjoyed a lot of that stuff. Like I look at COVID as having been good for our industry, not just because we're so big and there's a lot of wealthy companies and stuff, but I mean, there's still a lot of people who look back and say, my life was ruined by COVID and all this stuff. then you missed an opportunity. I'm sorry. Like there were a lot of opportunities in COVID. And certainly, there are some businesses that just got crushed by it because they had debt
Well,
or,
this is it.
whatever it
I
was.
mean, just as there, as I say, with every change, there's stories that, I'm not, whatever, no one would say, and I'm sure you're not saying that, whatever, they
No.
should all done better. There are some people just
Yeah.
in the wrong place at the wrong time. You think,
Right.
man, that's just
Absolutely.
not fair. That is so not fair.
Absolutely.
And the way the
Yeah.
whole thing was run, and it's, whatever. I have a lot of issues with the way it was run. Um,
Yeah.
but as you say, there were other people who said, right, well, it is what it is, and how am I going to make the best of a bad situation? And so often
Yeah.
life is like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Totally true.
yeah, I'm sort
Totally
of
true.
married to a very positive person, and I have to say I was having a bit of a wobble yesterday, like, this is wrong and this is not going right. And she's like, look at your life. Look at the life you've had. Look at what you're
Yeah.
doing now. You're in Portugal,
Yeah.
you're doing this, you're doing that. You're like,
Yeah.
she's right. I'm an
Yeah.
idiot. Why am I
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
complaining?
Yeah.
And sometimes
I go
we
through
all
that
need that.
conversation quite often.
We all need
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
So,
all perspective, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Uh, are you seeing us in sort of an innovation lull in this industry right now, or do you think we're in a good place?
Wow, isn't that an interesting question? That's a tough question because you know what? I don't know if I'm like you said. I don't know if I'm right in a position in any authority to answer that. There was a time where I would have felt, yeah, I'm right on the money. In terms of new fixtures, I
Yeah.
try and keep up. I see some of the new stuff coming out. But I do think there's a lot of polishing of existing technologies. There's
Right.
interesting new things. Um, and it's whatever you see new products come out, and sometimes they're really successful, and then they bring out a new version of that. And you think, well, what else are they going to do with it? What they've normally done is made more pixel mappable cells, where you had some, maybe you had 9 before, and now you've got 50 pixel mappable cells, and they
Yeah.
can certainly do all the colors they did before. But it is really just sort of stepping up what was there before. And I think for me, I'm still waiting for that moment. And it's, to me, frustrating that you've had to wait 24 years because what we need is a super high power projector light. We need something that does have infinite gobo, that does have infinite iris and zoom. And without an incredibly small, and the plasma, this plasma bulb that almost made it, but never quite. It was a point
Yeah.
source and
Yeah.
incredibly bright and incredibly white, but it just couldn't get it stable.
Yeah.
Lots of reasons, and people, I know people who claim they've got it working and da, da, da. But anyway, let's see what happens.
All the
But
new
if that
laser
came out,
phosphor stuff
that
looks
would
good.
work. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
All
So
of
I
that
don't want to be
stuff is doing
unfair
well.
about that. I think that is a very good point.
But here's the thing that I think went wrong the first time around with those video lights is I think it was a projector that tried to be a light. And what we need is a
Yes, that's
light
right.
that's got some projector technology in it, but it's a light,
Piece of light, yeah.
and because all these square moving projectors on a yoke just
No, they just didn't
never
work,
really
and they
did it.
never work. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It just never really
So,
did it.
and we'll see. So you think, well, what else does the industry need? I think more flexible screens are interesting. I think building
Yeah.
LED into all sorts of things and making things light up is, and there's certainly been a lot of development in that, and
Yeah.
it's an interesting area. And I suppose with my interest in the merge of video and lighting, that's a super interesting point.
Yeah.
To see lights being built into all sorts of things because LEDs are now so small and easy to route. Um, Although, of course, I'm looking at routing them behind wooden beams at the moment. So I'm on the other end of
Good times.
things.
Yeah. Good times.
But
You're probably going to have your
it's a
house
hard
like
one.
totally pixel mapped so you can
Pixel
see it
map.
from
There will
space,
be
right?
there will be color changing LED everywhere. I can assure you that.
But what about on the
It'll be
roof?
a
What
nice
about on the
wood
roof so
tone.
that
Oh, I
planes
haven't
can
gone
see
that far. But
crazy
my friend who
images?
just turned up today, he was reading my mind because he looked at all the flat land and he said, Steve, you can have some great raves here. We can have the bumper cars over there. We can have the second
Oh my
stage here.
goodness.
I said, you are not far from the truth, my friend.
That is awesome.
We're going to have some parties here. So,
Yeah.
yes, there will be times you can see it from space, I'd like to think.
On the whole innovation front, though, like I keep bouncing back and forth because like everything is so good right now. Like Robe, if you look up and down their line, it's amazing. And all the
It
fixtures
is
are amazing. If you look
bright,
at
reliable, everything works exactly.
If you look at Chauvet up and down their line, it's all good.
Yeah,
Ayrton and Elation
yeah,
and
yeah,
all of these lines, Claypaky, they're
yeah.
all amazing from the bottom to the top.
So,
And, but, like, I think innovation in our industry right now reminds me of children playing soccer. They're all just following each other around in a bunch.
okay,
So
right,
somebody comes
okay,
out with a
all
pixel
right,
mapped wash
okay.
light that does a certain thing with a ring around the
Thing,
outside. Then everybody has a pixel mapped wash light with a ring around the outside, right?
right,
And
yeah,
so all of the lines are very similar. Like every manufacturer is a little bit similar. And I remember how it used to be very different than that. Everyone
yes,
was
that's true.
very unique. Every line was completely unique. And you used a little bit of this, a little bit of this, and a little bit of this
Yeah,
in each design. Now it's much more, I could use anything. So the
yeah.
good side of
Companies had
that,
like a hallmark, didn't they? Yeah, that's right.
yeah,
A sort of house style, if you like. Yeah,
yeah.
that's right.
The
Yeah,
good side is, it's down to who the relationships are with or who the vendor has in stock. So if the vendor is a big Robe house, we'll take all of your Robe stuff. If it's a big Ayrton house, we'll take all of your Ayrton stuff. If it's Martin, whatever, right?
yeah, and
And
they make it work.
but the downside is it's becoming a little bit uh how do the
Dude,
Brits say it? Homogeneous or whatever.
homogeneous.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a bit
that's right. Yeah,
homogenized. Yeah,
homogeneous. Yeah, that's right. You
yeah.
know. Um,
And
and it is. It's a hard thing to listen to, but I cannot disagree because you're right. There's
yeah,
the polishing and polishing and polishing, where manufacturing techniques. And one thing is great is things just work. Just
they're
like
all
in the
good.
old days,
Everything's good.
things used to break. All take electronics. Now we buy consumer electronics and they just work always. If
Well, the
it's not
fact that
working,
it's
it's
all
probably user
weatherproof
error.
and it's
Yes.
all
Yeah. Yeah.
weatherproof, you can,
That's.
for you and your festivals, like you don't have to
Yeah.
put bags over fixtures
Yeah.
anymore. It's beautiful,
No,
you
and in
know.
fairness to the R&D guys, because I feel like here we are saying, "Oh, there's no innovation," and I'm sure there's R&D directors who would want to cut our throats,
Oh,
whatever,
I've had those
because they're working.
conversations.
That's
They're like,
right.
Marcel, you're an
Um,
idiot. Yeah, which
because,
I am.
yeah, but same here,
Yeah,
because I think in one sense, though, I think it's fair to say, hey, that was such a holy grail to get fixtures waterproof, but still able to lift them out of the box,
hell yeah,
still bright, get rid of the heat, all of those issues, and it's been dealt with. So if you like, if there's
yeah.
been one big innovation, you're right, the IP
Oh,
innovation, that
absolutely.
whole IP surge has been incredible. But it would be great to see some artistic innovation, if you like, almost like time now to see maybe some visual innovation, and it would be cool. Yeah, it would be.
Yeah,
So we'll see where it
yeah.
goes, and it's great.
Well, and I
I
think
had a
some
lighting
companies have
designer.
done it. Some companies have
Mm,
done it a bit, like I would say GLP, getting rid of the base on a lot of their fixtures, that was kind of edgy and out there, even though original Verilites had that. But
right. Yeah,
I used to really love Ayrton for doing things like they came out with the little tiny fixture, I forget what it was called, and then
yeah,
they
that's
came out
right.
with a square one, the
Yeah.
square fixture, and like and it was pixel mapped.
But yeah,
And
but strangely, I thought they were both cool, both of those fixtures, but both of them didn't do that well. I mean, I don't want to, maybe I shouldn't be saying
no,
that, but we're all in the
yeah,
industry and we don't see lots of them. And so then you
yeah,
wonder if then companies start to be a little bit afraid of out off the wall innovation, because both of those
maybe.
fixtures, I've had really interesting applications for those, but they were never big commercial success. And maybe like you, I wonder why.
Yeah.
It's odd
Well, it's the
because
same reason
thing,
Ferrari now makes an SUV and Lamborghini makes an
yeah,
SUV.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is what the
that's right.
market wants. This is what
Once.
we give them.
That's right, man.
You want the ugly truck? We give you the ugly truck.
Yeah, I
you
know.
know.
A Maserati SUV, the first one I saw, you're like, are you serious? Or a Bentley? Oh my
Yeah.
Lord. No, it's the
Yeah.
Bentley. The
Aston
cool Bentley
Martin,
looks so
all of
cool.
them.
Why would you do that? Yeah, they're really
Yeah.
idiots, aren't they? When you make the
Yeah.
most
Yeah, the
beautiful
Bentley.
cars in the world. I know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, the Bentley's
it
not
goes
beautiful.
on.
Yeah.
But we'll
Well,
see. We'll still keep going, and it's nice to have those things to look back on. Whatever I look back
yeah.
at, different rehearsals that you've been part of, things that you've fucked up there.
Yeah.
Almost setting fire to Paul Simon's rehearsals. Well, not quite. I just filled it with smoke.
What
But
happened there?
yeah, no,
I never
oh
heard
my
that
God,
one.
no, it was. I mean, whatever, and I was so young, and in fact, they were rehearsing Gracelands in the UK for the Gracelands tour, and I think it was great because we were really part of that whole. We weren't supplying to South Africa. We did supply. We supplied to Live Aid. We supplied to the Nelson Mandela concert. It was a real groundswell of like, this is unacceptable.
Yeah.
And I know some people had issues with Paul Simon bringing out that album, misappropriation and what have you. But I felt it really helped open up the world's eyes to like, the Africans do really cool music, and there are people like us, and let's do it, and let's all be together. And he had the Ladysmith Black Mambazo in the rehearsals, and the two things was I fixed the console. It was only like a broken fader or something. Fixed it, and then the show's going on. The rehearsal's going on, and then suddenly people going, there's smoke, and I'm thinking, well, there's always smoke. There's bloody lights. Of course there's smoke. There's a smoke machine. And then you got smoke here and smoke here. So the place is like full of smoke. And then I realized the fucking smoke is coming out of my toolbox, man. It's coming out of my flight case toolkit. I'd left the soldering iron, put it back in its wax sleeve.
Oh, no.
And it was just slowly burning through. Honestly, I'll never forget it. I looked at it and thought, is that smoke coming out of my fucking toolbox? Is this possible? And everyone's looking at you. You're like, oh my goodness, just crawled into a little hole. But I'll tell you what was really sweet is it was the first time that you'd seen a big South African black choir singing, and these production girls would go up with their clipboards and they'd be saying, hey, can I get you a cup of coffee or a glass of water, a cup of tea? And the Africans would take two steps back and like, leave me alone. Are you going to call rape or something?
Oh,
or
my
they were
God.
just not used to people treating them as they should be treated.
Yeah, as humans.
It was a real life moment. I think, yeah, damn right, this is how you should be treated. No, we get to the point very soon where it's not so strange for you for somebody to come up because you're an artist, you're an amazing singer, and they're offering you to bring you water, tea, whatever you want. Which is so sweet, man. It was so sweet. But,
Steve, let me ask you a crazy question. When was the first time you ever saw somebody doing blow off the drawer on your desk? Because I know that's not what it was made for.
It's nuts. But there's been an awful lot of that. And I used to be in the service department, so I used to see it when they would come back from service. You're like, oh, boys, what? And so the amount that come up with grass as well, grass in the faders. So you're like, there's little bits of green. I mean, you can spot green for a long way. You probably open it when you open the flight plate.
It's
crazy.
And
of course, back in the 80s and 90s, there was so much of that. I'm sure there's still a lot of it going on, but it's sort of good that the industry has really cleaned up its act. I mean, and they're just being more careful.
That part is really good. That part is really good because not only was it extreme, but it was dangerous. I mean, I knew riggers that were climbing stoned out of their brains, and
not having slept for 48 hours. Exactly.
No, it was a bad lifestyle from a health standpoint, but also safety. And I'm glad for everyone that the industry has really cleaned up its act in that regard. But it was funny because then I've told this.
Yeah, go on. Sorry, let me turn on some lights. I know it's getting very dark here. It's getting nighttime in Portugal.
I told this story before, but one of the first shows I saw when I moved from Canada to the U.S. and I was working for Martin, and I was invited to go front of house, and I won't say who the act was or who the LD was, but so I'm front of house, and all of a sudden I see that drawer open, and I'm watching what he's doing, and I'm like right here in the middle of everyone, this guy's snorting lines out of the console right here in the middle of like 20,000 people. I was shocked. I just had never seen anything like that. Just
because they open up Canadian, the lids, don't they? They open up the. You remember? I mean, was it Selco had a big drawer, had a big open flap, and then the whole hog had the biggest. Because it was like a barrier between between them and the audience. It's like I'm just down here checking my notes from like 3 inches away.
Funny. Like you said, it's good that our industry has cleaned up, and it's such an exciting time to be alive in our industry. Like, the Stones are touring in their 80s. This is an amazing thing, and the production for that show is outrageous. Like,
stunning.
If you figure like you probably had a QM whatever console on a Stones show in the 70s or
have
80s
many times in the
with
during the 90s, yeah.
with maybe, a dozen or 2 dozen moving lights on it, if they even had moving lights at that point. Now this probably has 1,000 moving lights on this current Stones show,
We even had it. Well, we had the Diamond 3 with Ethan till quite late, and
Yeah.
big shows. And that must have been up till 2000, up till 2000 and just after
Wow.
2000. So all the way through, we were doing
Yeah.
all of their shows. And in fact, Ethan was so good, man. He gave passes that allowed me to take like 30 people from the company to the Rolling Stones stadium show.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
My partner, I mean, everyone was just blown away, and he took us everyone into front of house afterwards. He is
That's
such a cool
cool.
guy. He is like number one cool guy,
That's
Ethan
awesome.
Weber.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget my financial director, female, just crying with joy to see her product on an arena show for the Rolling
Oh, that's
Stones.
so cool.
She's Sri Lankan. She doesn't go to rock shows, and it was a life moment. That was just so
But
beautiful.
that's so cool that you brought her. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes,
to give her that kind of exposure to a show like that,
I've really
and to
tried
that
my best over
experience.
the years to take the company to as many shows. It gets harder and harder because, of course, passes get more and more limited. And these days, people invite you personally, Steve, you and your wife. Yeah, so I can't do any more.
Can I bring 20 of my closest friends?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's so nice. We do, like No Fit State. We do some, go to some avant-garde art stuff But every so often it comes up where you can get like an arena show for a comedian. I go, right, send out a company email. Who wants to go out tonight? I'm getting the drinks, I'm getting the food, just turn up and we're all going out.
Yeah,
and
that's so
it
cool.
makes such a difference. It makes such a difference to all go out together and see what you do, because a lot of the guys in the technicians in the workshop who build all these things and test them, they very often never get to see them used,
Yeah.
And they're technical people and quite often from different backgrounds, and they just wouldn't have that opportunity. So it's something I'm going to keep on doing. Yeah, it's
that's so cool. No, I love that about you. You know what I mean? Like I stopped going to shows when you couldn't get backstage parking passes anymore, and when you became a pedestrian, I was really like, unless I really wanted to see the band, I would go during the day for sound check and see the guys that I wanted to say hello to, and then I wouldn't go to the show at night most of the time, right? There's just so few bands anymore that I'm really interested in going out and being part of the crowd and stuff. I don't know. I probably should change that again, because I used to love live shows more than anything.
Go to the Doobie Brothers. And I'm told it's going to be amazing. Seth's going to make it amazing.
I will anyways, because I love Seth, and and they're a great band, and it's like last year was their 50th anniversary, so it's their 51st anniversary now.
Exactly.
So,
and Michael McDonald's going back out with them. So it's gonna be
cool. Is he really for the whole tour?
Yes, apparently.
Wow.
I don't know. That's what I'm told. So let's see.
Damn, you don't know me, but I'm your brother.
It's gonna be good.
And that's my singing debut on the podcast. That's about it. It's over. Yeah. So you're traveling a bunch still, right? Like you I know you bought a caravan thing or something. Like
a camper van. Yeah, caravans are the ones that you hook up to your car. But right, so I bought
trailers.
But like a little RV, really, I suppose. Yeah. So because RV is great. You just get in it and you go. You move your house to wherever you are. And we're doing a lot of festivals. Doing a lot of festivals this summer. But also because I've moved here to Portugal, we had places in the UK, but they're up for rent now. I'm not just going to leave them sitting empty. So whatever, you rent your place in the UK. So we're homeless in the UK basically. Yeah. So when I go back there, we'll be in the mini RV in camper van and driving. So they go see some friends.
What a great way to do it, though. What a great way to do it. I mean, where do you live? Yeah. Right here. Right here. Exactly. Yeah, you're in my yard. Get out of my yard.
And as you say, there's so many festivals in the UK. So not only we're doing big ones that we normally do, but I'm now looking for a load of little niche ones. They think, oh, great, let's go to some like 10,000, 5,000 people ones and hang out with friends. And they're really easy, those festivals, because nobody's stressed. They do the lights. You have a drink with them afterwards. It's really nice. So that's our traveling. And I'm going to be doing some more European festivals as well. So I want to try and open up our...
When you go, do you like to be front of house or do you like to be part of the crowd?
Bit of both. Always part of the crowd. We'll always spend some time in front of the house because, and it's great, and it's so nice to put your bags down and raiding. But
Yeah.
apart from that, what you really want to do is we love seeing the people. Caroline and I,
Yeah.
we're like machines for seeing the people you know. But it's really important. I'm not just saying this as some sales message or Avolites message.
Yeah.
We come back from Glastonbury with so many names of new technicians who are getting into it, new people, people who speak to you say, I'm here because my uncle is production manager, but I'd love to get into this industry. I don't know how. And we're
Yeah.
like, mate, here's my contacts. I'll take your contacts. Contact me afterwards. I'll get you into the company. You can jump on a training course. You can see if you like it. And point them in the right direction. And so
Yeah, that's
often those
perfect.
things are the things that start people off in life,
Yeah.
somebody just giving you that little leg up.
Yeah.
So,
That's
so
so
we're
perfect.
always in front of house. But what I don't understand is I know lots of people, and I can even think of some big name companies who will spend all of the time in front of house. You're like, I have a Colombian wife. She's a bit younger than me, and we are off dancing.
Yeah.
And we
That is
will. I'm,
amazing.
I'm half Jamaican. I love a dance. I don't
Yeah.
need much encouragement. So, and we're in the costumes. We're always in the costumes.
That's unreal. You
She
guys are
gets me
nuts.
dressed up. Yeah, she gets me dressed up, and we go have some fun with the audience. So yeah, it's
That's
cool.
fantastic. So are you
Um,
still going to go to trade shows or no?
yes, yeah, I'm planning to be at Frankfurt. Frankfurt next year. Plaza is the first one coming up in September.
Yeah.
And then Frankfurt next year. I'd really like to be LDI. I think I will be. So,
Oh, that'll be
it's
fun.
management decision, but I would really
Yeah.
like to. 27
Yeah.
LDIs, man. I really like that kind of. And even if not there, I think it might just come personally. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I've missed a couple in the last 2 years with all this changes
Yeah.
and what have you in Europe. So yeah,
Yeah.
I need to be back in that mix. I
Yeah.
miss it. I miss it a
I
lot.
missed LDI last year because I had a lot of fixing to do in my own business. And I really just had to keep my head down and
Right.
continue doing what I was doing. And I really hated missing it because people were
Yeah.
texting me and calling me and,
I know.
trying
You
to meet
like
me at the bar and stuff. And yeah, and they're
exactly.
like, what do you
Where
mean
are
you're not
you?
here?
I'm not
Yeah. What do
here.
you
I
mean?
know.
Uh,
That can't happen
And
again for either of us.
well, and everyone kept saying it's the greatest show that they've had in
Well,
many, many years,
oh,
maybe ever,
fantastic.
best one ever,
Fantastic.
and I'm like,
Good.
what?
Good.
So
Good.
yeah, I'll be back this year. I like to
Yeah, I
record
hear it was
podcasts at
good.
LDI too.
Yeah.
It's always
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah,
But
it was fun when we did that one Sunday morning. I don't know how I did that last time.
you
You
I think
remember?
you were
I was
still up.
so um,
I think you were still up.
saying nothing. My lips
Yeah,
are
you
sealed.
were still up, I think, as I recall. Yeah, you were a little bit sloppy,
No,
but
not
fun.
shy. I'm shy.
Sloppy, but
Yeah,
fun.
okay. Something about fun. That's probably a good way to be sometimes.
Well, I'm going to let you
Oh,
get back to your guests
cool. Huh?
and your lovely.
Yes, I'll
Is
go
she your
find
wife
them.
now or still your partner?
No, we're married. Yeah, we got married and we had a little mini festival in our back garden. It was pretty cool. Yeah, it was pretty
Wow.
cool. It
When
was,
was that?
the farmer let us use the field behind. So that really opened up. Whatever. I live slightly outside London. So the garden
Yeah.
is big enough. But when the farmer said, "Hey, you can use the field behind the garden as well," you're like, "Hey, we borrowed a big marquee from one of the festival marquees from Glastonbury, like a big one.
Jesus Christ.
And we had some DJs, and you stayed up for like dancing until 4 or 5 in the morning.
Oh
Our
my
Colombian
goodness.
parents were there dancing with us 4 or 5 in the morning. It was fun.
Uh, what do they
And
think of you? They must think you're batshit nuts, right?
well, I'm sure they will think, why isn't their daughter marrying this significantly older chap, But I suppose maybe it's the young at heart thing, and I would keep people focused on that
Well, yeah.
because, you
Yeah.
just got to keep doing it because I think as soon as you start saying, oh, can't be doing that, can't be doing that, is when all the problems set in. So
Yeah, but you don't
we
act
get
like
on
an old
great.
guy. Let's face it.
I try not
You
to.
don't act
We're
like an old
responsible
guy
all the
at all.
way.
Yeah.
And we get
Yeah.
on really well. Yeah, the parents we get on really well. They come and visit here.
That's cool.
I go spend time with them. We've got a little place there. Spend a couple of months a year over there. So,
They still live in
um,
Colombia then.
in Colombia, yeah, they're in Bogota.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
they're
Nice.
really nice. Yeah, they're a nice part of Bogota. Carolina went to a Swiss school for mathematics, and then decided she liked mathematics so much she was going to be a yoga teacher. Screw mathematics. I never want to add another two numbers together in my life.
I can see a perfectly straight line between those two, mathematics and
I
yoga.
know. Yoga. I
Yeah.
know. I think
Yeah,
it put her off
that's
for life.
interesting.
So she's like, I'm doing something more involved with the people. She's quite
Uh,
amazing. She has a
yeah.
talent for never forgetting. She's almost at an Asperger's level of never
Ugh.
forgetting someone
Ugh.
she has met. Serious,
Oh,
it's
okay.
freaky. She
Yeah.
remembers their names, their what they were wearing, where we met.
Wow.
So can you imagine that if we do festival after festival after festival and meet, and I'm talking about, you asked if we go in the crowd, we go in the crowd and dance with
Yeah.
random people all the time,
Yeah.
and then she spots them at other festivals, and it
Hey,
freaks them
Bob.
out. She goes and say, "How are you
That's
doing?
crazy.
Oh yeah, I
Wow.
remember you had a baby, or you're getting married," and they're like,
That's wild.
you see,
Good
and
for
she goes,
her.
"You don't remember me, do you?" And we have so much fun with that. We have,
Yeah,
honestly,
good for
it's
her.
like a superpower. Yeah,
But does
it's
she
really cool.
remember
So,
everything? Like all the stuff that you don't want her to
oh,
remember? Like, Steve,
you
remember
know
that
what?
time 2 years
Uh,
ago you told
oh,
me that you
she
were
is too
gonna.
good. She's too
Oh
good.
boy.
I tell you what's
Uh-oh.
great as well is because she's very healthy and the whole yoga thing going on, the front of house, all of that naughty stuff you were talking about front of house. There's a lot less of it because they can't do it in public in front of her. They're all friends with her. We know
Ah,
all of them. And so
yeah.
they all have to sneak off somewhere to do whatever naughty things they want to do. And
Uh,
so
good.
we're like the little health fairies.
Good. Good.
So that's
Good.
good. I like that. I like that.
Well, I look forward to,
Oh,
I
cool,
don't think
man.
I've met her. I don't think she's been with you
No, she
at the
hasn't. That's
shows that I've
right.
been
Not to
seeing
the,
you. So
no, that's correct.
I'd love
That's
to meet her.
absolutely
We're going to come
correct.
over to
So yeah,
Portugal.
yeah, come over to Portugal, come to Plaza, but
Yeah.
mainly come to Portugal because we'll have a roof and a guest room by next spring, and that'd be so
Well,
cool.
the roof is important. The guest room, I don't
A
care.
roof
I can sleep on a
important.
floor.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
but no, yeah, the guest room needs the toilets, the tequila, da 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 da. But yes, by
Ah, there you
Christmas
go.
season, we're expecting to be finished. But I'm giving us a little bit of leeway because spring comes early here. So I'm
Wow.
telling people, hey, if you want to come, book in a slot in the spring. It'd be really nice.
I'm guessing we're going to have to calendar it like a long time in advance because, knowing you, you've probably
Yeah,
got bookings.
yeah, we
Yeah.
invited a few people, but getting early.
Yeah. Yeah. Steve, thank you so
Oh,
much for taking the
really cool
time
to
with me
talk.
today. It's
Oh,
been so
great.
fun to catch up with you again. And
Apologize to your listeners for talking so long and so randomly, but hey,
oh, stop
people
it.
can always call me. People always call me. I'm always up for a chat, and if I can help in any way, that's what I feel I'm there for. So always,
That's
and thanks for the
amazing.
opportunity,
You're
Marcel.
you're
Top man.
you're a great human, Steve.
Oh,
You're a
you
very
too,
good
man. You keep up the
human.
good work.
Yeah.
You did a lot of good
All right,
work during
buddy.
pandemic, and you keep it flying. Hey, take care.
Uh,